Okay, we're ready?
You just have to hit the got it on your screens.
Yep.
Yep, it says so. Yep.
All right, let's get started. I'll call this meeting to order. Lanny, do we have a quorum?
Yes, you do.
Thank you very much. Do we have any members speaking?
There was no member speaking submitted to me.
Okay, let's go to the secretary's report. We have 2 minutes to approve, September 23rd and September 27th.
I move that we approve the meetings of our, the minutes of our meeting from September 23rd, 2021.
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries.
I move that we approve our minutes from our meeting on September 27th, 2021.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the president's report. I'll make this really quick. As you know, the primary purpose of this meeting is to approve the budget for 2022, review it, amend it as necessary, and approve it. While there's more on the agenda, some of the more important things are approving an early roof replacement for 15905 Sterling Oaks Drive and 15909 Sterling Oaks Drive. I'd like to make an assignment to develop a code of ethics for the board. We'll talk about that later. We have got to make an assignment for how we're going to resolve this. I call it tennis, bocce, and pickleball janitorial issues. This is all, I'm all confused on this whole thing. It sounds like it's a combination of what I call janitorial issues and grooming issues. So we'll talk about that later. We're going to update our COVID management plan. Lonnie will take the lead. I'm just giving you a heads up here, although no motion is going to be needed. I'm going to begin a discussion with Mark and Jason about the wisdom and process for turning over to some kind of entity in Wildcat Cove the responsibility for the management, collection, and disbursement of all their reserves for roofing and painting. I'd like to, I just want to figure out if there's a way to take this out of the hands of the Master Association and put it in the hands of the homeowners that are involved in this. No decision is being made today. I just want to let you guys know what I'm up to. So that's it on that. And then I think we're going to be in a position today to make a decision on monument changes. Those are some of the highlights. There's more, but those are some of the highlights. With that, let's go to the manager's report. Mark?
Hey, everybody. Well, you all have the manager's report in front of you. A couple of things that I'll add to it at the end. Hopefully we'll get through this in a fairly quick fashion. Street lights, as some of you have noticed, they've got them up and down the main median outside of the front clubhouse. The parking lot of the clubhouses have been replaced as well, and he's starting in Wildcat Cove. And so those are moving along. Paving is completed. There are 2 areas that need to be fixed. One is a manhole cover as you exit Wildcat that still needs a little bit of work on it. And also they forgot a crosswalk where Wildcat begins right there at the sign. The sidewalk stops on the right-hand side and starts again on the left, and they need a crosswalk there. The paver project behind the clubhouse is finished, except for we're waiting on some sod. They were looking for some zoysia to fill in those last couple of spots. We're going to try to get all that done by tomorrow morning so that at least we have grass on the ground for the party tomorrow night. We've done all of the sidewalks, the gutters throughout the community, as far as I know. We did have the roof of the clubhouse along with the cabana and pump house all pressure washed and cleaned. It still looks dirty because it's cement tile. Some years and years ago, before my time, the clubhouse roof was painted white to make it look clean. And that either needs to be redone or we are going to have to get new tiles at some point in time. It's 25 years old, and at some point in time, we'll have to look into that. I'd rather do it in a timely fashion than try to go through a hurricane claim, because then our rates will go up. So anyways, I'm looking into the sealing and painting of the tiles, because really there are not too many, but we do worry about a couple of areas of concern up on the roof. So we're kind of keeping our eye on those just to make sure that they're not leaking when we get high winds and driving rain in the summertime. We do find that there are some small leaks that travel through the building. I can tell you that we are busy now. A lot of people are back, and as Lauren can attest, we had some pretty good nights. We were busy on a Friday night, full house, and people had a good time. Then we followed it up with trivia on Halloween trivia, and that was fun. We had a great time. We are finding that there's a lot of supply issues, just as you all are aware of. We're no different. Plasticware, to-go cartons, plastic cups, and things that we use on a day-to-day basis that every restaurant uses are all falling in short supply. So we're actually buying stuff off of Amazon and other places and Walmart just to try to keep things going in here. Same with foodstuffs. Foodstuffs are going through the roof. If anybody's been down shopping lately at Publix or Fresh Market, the prices are up there. So we're trying to manage that and arrange our menus accordingly. Along with that, as everybody knows, staffing is an issue. We are working on that. Currently, we have enough staff to manage our situation. We've got our feelers out, and we're talking to friends and people and acquaintances and asking if they need to have a second job, part-time, anything that we can do to get some extra staff in here to help us out. So we are okay for the moment, but we're continuing to hopefully fill in some of those chinks if we do get really, really busy. I can only tell you, this isn't for you folks, this is for the YouTubers out there. Hopefully we get some good views on this and get some of the community to really watch this so they can understand the process that we all go through to make decisions and communicate. I can tell you that the emails that we send out from the office on Fridays, it's the FYI. Usually on Tuesday and Wednesdays, it's the email from food and beverage operations and activities. Those are very important to keep up to date on what's going on during season. And as we get busier, we do have days that are, let's just say, conflict with regular scheduled events. In other words, if there's a special party on a night or a special event, that it'll take precedence, and there'll be a change in the actual day-to-day, if you want to call it, schedule. So just please, all of you, watch your emails and keep abreast of the situations out there. So we're all busy. I can tell you I've gotten some great reviews on landscaping and the new pavers, the seal coated roads, and how the place looks. And I think that, that's a busy summer that we've all gone through to try to get all this stuff done. I'm very pleased with how that's all turned out. And that concludes my report. If any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. One last comment. The cable project team really didn't submit a report, but I've been working pretty much hand in hand with Eric and Lynn and Frank and John Dumas, who are on the cable project team. Michael Hargrave has been at the presentations in person as well. You've probably seen them on YouTube. I can tell you that currently the project team is probably looking at the last two presenters, Blue Stream and Hotwire. You know, the key that we're looking for truly is consistency of product and customer service. You know, we want to know that we've got quality service. When we have problems, we want to know that it's consistent at all times and doesn't just fade out or pixelate or have slow speeds. All of the providers, including Summit, have said that it'll be fiber to the home or to the unit, including the condos and coach homes, and that the minimum speed will be 300 MIPS, where currently I think you're at 30. So it'll be 10 times the speed, and they all can go up to somewhere over a gig, and some can go up to 10 gigs. I'm not sure what you'd use that for, but that's the progress that we've got coming down the pike. So I think that the cable project team probably will come back to the board with a decision. It will have opportunity to have 2 town hall meetings so that those providers can get in front of the people and ask and answer questions to be able to give us that. At that point in time, we'll probably get some ideas on costs and over on a bulk service contract for those providers as well. That concludes my report.
Mark, I had a question. When is the oven at the pool going to be in operation?
In fact, I talked to Lindia today. She was asking about that. The oven is ready to go. We are just kind of waiting for some, if you want to call it, business in the afternoons. You know, there's no reason to have the oven going while we're open in the up at the kitchen. There's no reason for a service member to be trying to man an oven by running up to the clubhouse for a burger. We're trying to get this place opened up. We're going to try to open up a couple of evenings. We've talked about Sunday nights. We've talked about Tuesday nights. We're just trying to get those going. I can tell you, I went on the cameras. I looked on Saturday. So here's Saturday afternoon, a beautiful day, nice at the pool. That 4:30, we were still open. At 5 o'clock, we were still open. The cabana stayed open. At 5:15, there were 7 people at the pool. So we're kind of waiting for the crowds to get back before we really get down there and spending the, if you want to call it, the resources and manpower to have some evening meals. But we do need at least 20 or 30 or 40 of you down there participating in any given event or watching TV or doing some different activities in order to make it worth our while. 3 or 4 or 5 people to keep the place open till 7 or 8 o'clock just really isn't going to cut it and doesn't mesh with the budget. So we're trying to combine that with some other events down at the pool on these evenings. And we think that that's going to happen very soon, and definitely will be this month.
Okay, are there any other questions for Mark? Okay, with that, we'll move on to the treasurer's report. John Mulligan, please.
Okay, everybody's received a copy of the treasury report, and we have the budget to approve, so I'll just go over a couple points. Excuse the leaf blower outside my window here. Okay, the balance sheet remains solid with that operating cash of $707,000 and total cash of $2.1 million. We had unfavorable variance to budget for the month of $17,000, mostly due to timing of expenses that we expected. And we have a year-to-date favorable variance of $379,000. And I still expect us to be at 300,000 plus favorable at the end of the year. Any questions in the September report?
I don't think there are any questions. We certainly don't have many issues at this point.
Thanks, John.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to committee reports. Mike, architectural standards.
Okay, the single-family condo coach home inspections were completed the week of October 18th. We used a new software program this year to document and photograph all of the violations as we walk through the community. And then once we got back in the office, the software was able to generate all the emails and hard copy letters to the 274 violations. So it really did speed up the process, it decreased the administrative time. And we actually did the walkthroughs in record time, but I'm not sure if that was the program or CSUN yelling at us to keep focused all the time. So
Can I have a question?
Sure.
Why the big spike in violations, do you think?
I look back at the years, there's no real spike.
Okay, this part of the report that says from 9/13, is it just because that's when the reports were completed? Is that why?
Yes, and then we went back to 18, 19, and 20, and that they're all about in the same range. The only time it was really up was after the Hurricane Irma, we expected that. So that's why part of that report was looking back, it's consistent. And the bulk of the violations are moldy and dirty roofs and driveways, which is our standard. So.
Okay.
All right. So this was the first time out of the chute for that software. So I think next year we can rethink how we do our reports because the data is certainly going to be available to us. So that's all I have on that.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We're going to go a tad out of order. We're going to do tennis after Lauren tells us her news and talks about communications and activities. So Lauren, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, thanks. As you probably all know, this is going to be my last board meeting because we're going to drive down the cost of homes in Wildcat because that's where we're moving. So, but anyway, so I did want to give you one last report. The activities committee has finalized the schedule of events for next year, for the rest of this year and next season. And my hats are off to them because they really put some creative things together. So some of the things that are planned besides the normal of New Year's Eve, Valentine's, St. Patrick's, that sort of thing is on November 17th, there'll be a cornhole tournament. And I believe, Mark, that we are going to use the oven that night for some food. So I think that will be great. There would be a Christmas holiday door decorating, house decorating with a little party at the clubhouse on December 15th. Probably the most exciting is there's going to be a 4-part concert series that will start in January with different types of genre. And there's a plan there to sell series tickets and have a VIP area and things of that nature that I think will be a lot of fun. Girls' Night Out is in full swing. They start this week. I believe it's this week or next week, and have plans all through April. And for you gentlemen that were feeling left out, Dave Hill has a potential group called ROMGO, which is Retired Old Men Going Out, that will compete with Girls' Night Out. And he's putting kind of a group together to review some of the things that he has come up with, which are pretty interesting. I think his meeting is next week to kind of run it by everybody. So hopefully that'll be something nice for you gentlemen. And the list kind of goes on and on. There's pool parties planned. There's hopefully the Cabana Bar being open one night a week is going to generate more participation. We might play with it a little bit and bring it up, bring it down, see where it goes. So hopefully they have some great things. And as you know, the goal was to improve participation this year. So hopefully that's what's going to happen. I will tell you that pasta night was fabulous. Anybody that missed that one missed a good one. It was inexpensive. Food was good. We had a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of the themed nights as well for people to enjoy. So it's been a real pleasure to be the liaison on that one. And I look forward to helping out wherever I can. But they are certainly in control of stuff. The Communications Committee is also continuing to develop an agenda to help spread the word, get the information out. To Mark's point, we want to be sure that people are reading the FYIs that are coming out. So they're working with Laura, Nicole, and Suzanne on trying to do that. They're certainly open to helping any committee that needs something to be sent out. There's a creative bunch in that group as well. They've also planned their first newcomers reception, which will be on January 13th. For newly purchased homes dating back to March 2020. We had in excess of 140 sales in that particular time. Not all of them brand new, but was a very small amount in comparison of people who moved from condos to houses, houses to wherever. And it will be set up kind of like a fair. We're going to ask all of the chairman committees if they would, committee chairmen rather, if they'd like to participate, be able to give it people information on tennis and pickleball and bocce and everything else that goes on around here. And get people to kind of meet and greet each other. So I think that's going to be a nice thing for the community as well. So again, enjoyed working with communication. I think there's a lot more things that that group can be used for to help. And I, again, want to thank you all for having me on the board for the short time. I think I might have the shortest tenure. But as it turns out, we want to go be John Mihawk's neighbor. So that's the way that goes.
And welcome to Wildcat.
Right.
Thank you, Lauren.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Lauren. Let's go on to tennis. There are at least 3 things I think we need to talk about, but I'll turn it over to Brownie. But
Okay.
we've got to approve a golf cart replacement and a roller replacement. I don't know if we're going to be talking about a shade shelter or not, so I'll just turn it over to Brownie.
Okay, well, the golf cart and the roller are both in the reserves item. So I don't know if those quotes are in the package or not. Are those?
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
Are those quotes in the package?
Yes.
Okay, so they're in the reserve. They were in the reserve. So I think let's take care of those first, because those are, I assume, are not really controversial in the sense that we talked about that in the summer in the reserves, that they would need to be replaced this coming year. So I can't find those in the package myself.
I'll make the motion for you, Brownie.
Okay,
got
make
it.
the motion, for the,
I
let's
move-
do the
I
golf
move-
cart first.
Yeah, I move that we approve $11,800 for the replacement of a golf cart for tennis.
Now second.
All in favor? Any discussion?
Question. Did we trade in the old cart or what's going to happen to the old cart?
Probably
I
be at
think
the
the old
bottom of
cart's
the
a
lake.
circa 1992. It's probably good for parts, but it's an old cart.
So it's like 30 years old almost, is what you're saying? Yeah, okay.
Second question, are you going to bring up what you put in your minutes about hiring somebody? Because if we're
Well,
hiring.
that's the third item.
first,
Let's take these one at a time. Okay,
We'll deal with this whole,
we'll deal with that, the third item.
we're going to
Let's
deal
just-
with that whole subject soon in
let's-
this meeting.
This is
okay.
just on the golf cart.
This is just on the golf cart.
I guess we should call it a tennis cart, actually.
Yeah. All right. Is there any other questions? Okay, all in favor, say, John?
Aye.
Turn on your voice.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I was planning on passing this through, no problem. And Ken did raise a question to me earlier. It has to do with the third part. Isn't one of the options that we're gonna have is to go to an outside entity or outside company to do our maintenance? And if that's so, are they gonna have their own carts and machines to do that? If they are, then why would we buy a new one now, if that's an option?
Good question, John. Number one, it doesn't look like that's going to probably be the option we do anytime in the short term, based on Chap's proposal on what we do in the short term about the maintenance. The second thing is, I suspect is, even if we had a maintenance, I don't know this for sure, they wouldn't bring a cart in every day. They would still want to have, we would still probably use something like the cart that would be ours. But that's a good question. I don't really know the answer to it.
Lanny?
The other thing is that the cart is needed for midday grooming which is done by a part-time person for league play. So even if we hired a company to do the morning grooming, it's my understanding that the midday grooming for leagues would still be done in-house.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we have a motion on the table that's been seconded. All in favor, say
Aye.
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 Carries, I think, unanimously. Okay, second motion I'd like to make is that we approve a new court pack roller. I guess it gets towed behind the
Right.
the cart,
Correct.
for a total of $9,100. I move we
Second.
approve it.
And again, let me say that was in the reserve. And John, I think the answer to that would be the same. That's a very heavy piece of equipment. I think, even if we had someone come in and do the work, they would still probably use our roller. To bring that roller in each time they wanted to do it would be something I doubt they would do.
Okay.
Plus, it doesn't look like we're probably go that way anyway. Okay.
I agree.
Okay, is that
I
motion been
second.
seconded?
I second. I'm sorry. I second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Carries unanimously. Brownie, I'll let you move
Okay.
on with anything else you'd like to
Okay.
say. I don't know if you're going to talk about shade shelters or not, but go ahead.
Yeah, I am. Okay, I did send a handout on the tennis committee meeting. First of all, our membership as of October the 1st is up to 350. To put that in perspective, last year it was 317 at this time. So the membership is about as high as it's ever been. We've even talked about at some point, we would probably want to cap the membership, although we're not at that point yet. And that's something that we're going to watch. Any comment on that, Terry? I know you've always looked at the cap on the membership.
Yes, you're right. We're not nearly there yet. I think that we can go up to 400 would be the outside limit that you could handle. But obviously, the more that you have come in, it'll be less difficult. It'll be more difficult for people to find time to play. So we do have to watch it carefully.
Yeah. Okay, now the next item is on the tennis court shelter, which was discussed last month. It's item 1 on the handout I gave you. The committee agreed that to drop the request for a shelter next to court 2, basically because of limited space. But the committee unanimously still support erecting a shelter between courts 8 and 9 with a cost of about, the actual cost of 12.5. Paul received that proposal. I think I attached it to the thing I sent out from Naples Awning. Now, there's been some opposition to that we don't need the shelter. We've got too many shelters. Only comment meant to make is from a consistency standpoint, that's the only shelter we don't have now. Okay. In other words, that one area between 8 and 9, when people do want to watch the spectators, there's no shade. We do have the shelter between the other courts. We have the shelter at the bocce court, which we paid for. We have the shelter at the pickleball court. So the tennis committee does think that it would be appropriate to go ahead and put a shelter up. We've been putting them up gradually over the last few years, and that's really the last one that would be needed. So I make the motion that the board approves the Naples Awning proposal of 12.5 for the shelter between courts 8 and 9, so we can open it to discussion. Okay.
Second,
Somebody needs to second it. I'm sorry. Okay.
Lenny seconded it. Let's discuss this, please. Any discussion? John?
Yeah, My question is this really a need, or is it just because the tennis thinks we have a $60,000 profit and we want to go out and spend the money? Okay.
Well,
First of all, the 60,000, okay, let me finish, Brownie, please.
oh, okay. You asked the question. I was going to answer it.
Oh,
Okay,
no,
go
yeah,
ahead.
okay.
Okay.
You know, the $60,000 that we call direct charge profit is really not a profit. We know we're going to have almost $50,000 worth of reserve and capital spending this year. And then when I look at the tennis committee meeting notes and I see a couple comments, it really makes me think. One is, I suggest that the tennis community consider recommending using some of the tennis profits this year to build more shelters. This needs to be done in the fall so that the money is spent during the 21 cycle. The next one is, okay, as the end of July, your profit is $63,000. Only 10 is committed to be returned to the club, but all of it will go to general funds if we don't ask to spend some of it. I recommend trying to send no more than 15,000 to the general fund. So I don't know what to think.
Okay, well, John, let me comment to that. I don't like that comment. I don't agree with that person. I do not want it because we have the money. And in actual fact, it won't probably get done in 2021 anyway. So that wouldn't even be appropriate. But I don't feel like it's a question of whether or not we had that money or not available. I think it would be from a consistency standpoint. It's the only one where we don't have shelter for spectators. It would fill it out. It would be the last one. So, you know, I support it, but not just because we have the money. Okay. In other words, we've got a lot of money, but that's no reason to spend it if we don't need it. Okay. So again, you use the word need, you know, we can live without it, but I think it's something that people would appreciate, and particularly probably most of those shelters are used in the afternoon when the leagues are going on. There's a lot of leagues. We get more spectators, and it gives them a place to sit on and out of the sun when they're watching the people play. The usually wives and a few friends come to those. So that's when it's mainly used, and it is used some also during the players, but mostly by the spectators for the leagues. You got any comments, Lanny?
Yes, I definitely support your point that this is a need, not just a spending of money. These courts are heavily used for league play. And for those that aren't aware, active league play is critical for us to be able to increase our tennis membership. If all the 350 players we have wanted to play in the morning, we would not have enough space currently for all the play that they want. But fortunately, most of our players cannot play both morning and afternoon league. Some of the young players do, but most of us cannot. So that supporting our league program is critical to having the number of members that we have in order to bring the income in that the tennis program is doing.
Okay, any other, Ken?
I've got a question. Is this going to be a reserved item in the future?
No. A
Or is
reserve
it-
item when?
Yes, it will. In
Well,
the future, it will,
theoretically, yeah, it would be a reserve item in the future.
Yeah,
because it's an
Well,
asset.
I've got a question on tennis showing a $60,000 profit. We do not, tennis does not pay into the reserve fund. All the owners pay into the reserve fund. If we only have 11% of the tennis members as owners, then we aren't contributing enough out of the tennis budget. There's no line item that says it goes to reserves. And yet we're spending out of reserves on a constant basis to
Okay,
redo
Ken,
the courts, to buy the items that we just approved. So
let me
it
let me
just doesn't
address.
make sense.
Okay. Go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry.
No, that's
Okay.
it.
Let me address that. Of course, John, we had the project team in the spring where we looked at that. We did increase the dues $50 for all the members to generate about $18,000 a year to increase basically a contribution. One thing I would like to see, I don't know if I need to make the motion, to change that line from profit to reserves, because really that is what it really is. In other words, the whole basis of our project team was between the 20,000 that we've been calling profit plus the additional 18,000 from raising it would give us almost 40,000 that would be, in essence, it goes in.
You don't understand.
We could put it into reserve, okay? So my feeling is that item in the tennis budget that we call profit, whether or not it's 40 or 60 or 20, but right now it's 40, which is the 20 plus the addition of the fees, was done so the tennis would be contributing a good portion going into the reserve. You understand that, Ken? Does that make sense to you?
I understand what you're saying, but they also, the tennis members have 100% usage, just like I do and every other member of the community does. And yet they don't pay anything to use the clubhouse. They don't pay anything to use the pool. They don't pay anything to use pickleball. They don't pay anything to use bocce. And they don't pay anything to use the guard when they come in and out the gates, which
We're getting
is
all-
another item that the community covers.
We're getting all hung up in our shirts here. The motion that's on the table is, do we spend $12,500 to erect a new shade shelter for tennis between what, courts 8 and 9? Isn't that what you
Yes.
said,
Yeah,
Donnie?
8, 9.
That's
yeah,
right.
courts 8,
Now,
9.
that expenditure is going to come from capital, whether
Yeah.
it comes from the annual capital or the long-term capital fund, I don't care. I'll let John decide that. What happens after that is the reserves for the future will have to acknowledge that we've got a new asset that has to be depreciated along with all our other new assets, all our other assets. So let's try to stay on the motion.
Yeah, Mark.
Mark?
The only question that I had was in Naples awnings quote, it mentions Collier County permitting and site development plan amendments. Looking back through my emails and documents, when we did get the recreational approval for the pickleball courts and the extra bocce court, which never appeared, we applied for those recreational changes to the site development plan. I am not sure, and only because I heard this morning that, well, I heard it before, but pickleball is also looking at putting up another shade shelter in the pickleball court area next to court 3. I just worry a little bit because when we went through Collier County for the pickleball court, they wanted to make sure there was adequate ADA access. That's why we had to put in the sidewalks. I'm just wanting to make sure that if we do this, that, and we do have to have permitting by Collier County because it's a structure and needs to be wind rated, which Naples Awning does do, that's included in the price.
Well, the quote did include the permitting, and there shouldn't be a problem with excess. There's already a walkway there. We're just putting the shelter over the walkway. So
That's just something that's also something that I want to make sure of is if you're going to put that over the walkway, is that something that's going to be adequate in nature to sustain that type of shelter?
all I can say is they included the permitting cost in that quote. So, I mean, I can't speak to whether or not the Collier County is going to approve it or not.
You can't.
I
The
am,
the patio company can't decide.
I mean, they
whether or not-
put up a couple of other, the last couple of awnings. They should pretty much know the process and be familiar with how to get it done, okay?
Those were fully vetted by the engineer and part of the SDPA process through Collier County, and were permitted and had footers. So I just want to make sure that if we're going to spend 12,500, that it's not 15,500. That's my only question.
Well,
Listen, I'm
that's
gonna
a good,
tip my hand. I'm gonna tip my hand here, and so we can move on. I am not opposed to this,
Nope, me neither.
but it sounds to me, and I think we can all agree there's no urgency.
No, I
It-
agree.
It seems to me that there is a reasonable question on the table right now, which is, does this money include all that's necessary to do the job? The right thing to do is,
Table it.
between Tennis and Mark, develop some confidence in the number before we go ahead and vote on this one way or the other.
well, we have a full detailed quote from Naples Awning comparable to what we did before. This is not a new experience. Plus, let me make the point, in all fairness, usually when we've had something like 12,000, we'll approve 15,000 to take care of that kind of question that might be. So maybe we ought to change it to 14 or 15,000 to allow for that. But to me, we're just putting it all for the third month. Let's either do it or not do it, okay? I mean, the quote is as detailed quote as anything we ever got.
Lanny?
Mark, don't you have comparable details from the previous shelters that were constructed?
I don't have any, I only, Naples Awnings does, I have all of Naples Awnings, quotes and stuff from the past, and they're all the same as this one here. The thing is that they just, it says, does not include amending SDP. It states it right there underneath site-specific engineering and Collier County permit. So I want to just make sure if it's that engineering and Collier County permit should cover the cost of them understanding what it is. I'm hopeful that our existing recreational SDPA that we applied for some years ago would carry over to this. And, this is just something that they should be able to do. I just don't know whether or not the existing slab that is out there, if it's a 4-inch slab, does it need to be, improved upon, redone, just something to make it so that the Collier County, when they come out and inspect as part of the permit process, and that it's all up to speed. And I don't know whether or not that's normally what they do is they do the patio. They do not provide the concrete for the footers or for the slab because that's not in there. That's just the shelter. So that's where I would like to know whether or not anything needs to be done to the site and whether or not Collier County's got all the information they need so that there isn't a hiccup. One last item on this, if we decided yes today, I can tell you it's probably going to be at least maybe next April or May before it goes in, which is fine. I just want to make sure that it's all there. And this doesn't have anything to do whether we want it or not. I just want to make sure that you're not approving 12,500. And as I said, it's actually 15,000 to 16,000 and you're surprised about it. That's all.
I'd like to recommend that we go ahead and approve this amount now. And if we have to come back and add more when you get more information, then we'll do that. Or change our mind.
I'm a little bit confused. We've got a very detailed project from the guy who's done a couple of these before. I'm a little surprised, Mark, that you're not on board with it.
I didn't say I wasn't on board, Brownie. I'm on board
Sounds like
with the
you're not on
project.
board with it.
You don't have anything in the very detailed project that you sent us here. It says 1 hip canopy, TIG welded aluminum frame, 8 posts, material, site-specific engineering and Collier County permit is $1,000, does not include amending SDP. I am just concerned that when they come out to look at the actual spot where you asked them, and they find out that it's a 4-inch slab and they go, I don't think this is gonna manage the Collier County wind loads. Are you guys prepared to put in concrete? Because there's nothing on that that says anything about concrete.
But we need to get the approval for them to come out to look at it, so they'll say that. And this is
Right.
not unusual for a project like this, which is the reason we usually approve a couple of thousand, 5 or 10% over what the actual quote is. We've done this many times.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just
So
telling you.
maybe
what's-
I make the
what's
motion,
not
we
there.
amend the 12.5 to 14,000 to allow for
No,
the fact.
you're
there
gonna
might be
have to
some
put
more.
in electrical, fans, lighting, all that. That's gonna come along
Wait.
too.
We don't
Oh.
have fans. We don't have any electrical on the shade, on the spectator shelters. None
We
of the
only ha-
others have it.
We do not have the fans on these shelters between the courts. We do on
Only
the
on
ones that,
court, only on court 1, but not 4-5 or 11-12.
I thought all of there's 12 fans out there. Where are they?
They're at the player shelters.
So
Not
nobody's
that-
gonna want a fan or a light in this shelter whatsoever.
Well, we've never done that in the
Or a
others.
water fountain.
We don't have them
We
on
don't have
any of
one.
the other spectator
The-
shelters.
these shelters between the
Just asking
courts that are
questions.
addition to the ones at the courts don't have fans and water fountains, okay? Right, Lanny?
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right,
Huh.
Terry, and then I'll get to you next, John. Terry,
I move that we table this motion for further investigation.
I second that.
okay, now parliamentary expert, what do we do now?
Vote.
We vote on whether it gets tabled, then there's
You
no
just vote
discussion.
on the table. Do we table it?
All
or
right.
not?
All right, let's have a vote on tabling the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
What I'll
Brownie,
do is I'll go ahead.
I don't detect any vicious negativity from this board about putting up another tennis shelter. The only thing that I hear is, let's vote on the right cost once and be done with it.
I'll
Make
go
sure
ahead.
the
I'll go ahead.
engineering,
I'll call John. I know John from Naples Awning. I can have him come out, look at the property, take a look at it and ask him specifically, or is there any issues that you have with what's going on here that's gonna cause us problems? Or is your 12,500 gonna make it? Or do we have to do anything to the existing slab and its surrounds? And if I can get all that squared away with him, with Alan and I, then we'll make sure that it's all set. And
Well,
we'll take care of it.
we're 6 weeks away from the next board meeting, and I don't think this is an unreasonable thing to do, so we're tabling it. Okay, let's move on. Brownie, do you have
Well, I
anything else to
yeah,
talk?
Yeah, there's the next item, the big item.
All right,
Clearly, over the last few months, let me call it, as you call it, janitorial maintenance of the tennis courts, and for that matter, probably the bocce and the pickleball, I don't know personally, has not been up to stuff. So there's been a proposal by the tennis committee, and Paul would like to basically take over the responsibility by contracting that out to a company. Okay. Now, I know there's been discussions with Mark about upping the priority and getting it done. And on the thing I sent out, basically, there were 4 different options: getting it contracted, a couple of different contract options, hiring a part-time person to do it, or somehow either hiring or getting the priority with Alan's maintenance crew to do that, quote, janitorial maintenance. Okay. Now, the tennis committee and Paul would like to just go ahead and take the responsibility, contract it out, but it would be an additional cost of about $20,000. Okay, close to that. Right now, the tennis, I think in the budget, the tennis pays, picks up $44,000 for the grooming plus the janitorial maintenance that Alan and his crew does now. Is that correct, Mark and John?
No, it's about 20,000. The other monies are going to Krister. It's not $40,000. The transfer is not $40,000.
Okay, well, it's 44 including in the grooming and what Alan and them do, the total. So if you got this,
That's including Krister. You got to remember, Krister's a full-time tennis employee who's on salary, whose job it is to groom and take care of the maintenance.
Yeah.
Specific
and
to the court.
yeah, and what I'm saying is if he contracted the whole job with Millet, that would also go with Millet and the increase would be around $20,000. Okay.
Are you saying that you'd hire a company Millet and keep Krister as well?
Would actually contract it out to Millet.
I know. Would you keep Krister on the payroll as well?
No, my understanding is that would be part of the contractor would do that. Okay.
Okay.
Now, that's what basically, I think the tennis committee, that's what they would like to do. It basically puts the responsibility and the cost in the tennis situation. Now, I do have a question, Mark. And I've never gotten quite clear on what the answer. Do we have the same number of people on Alan's maintenance crew that we had, let's say, 9 months ago?
Not 9 months ago, we lost Tommy. We've hired Abraham to fill in. He's away from school this semester and he'll be going back. So we're missing that. I can tell you that you have to go back many, many years. Alan's been here 15 years.
Well,
Just a minute. So in 15 years ago.
Well, okay, I don't want to go back 15 years.
We had three maintenance people, Alan, Kevin, as you all remember, Kevin, and Dave Talley. And they were here when I got here in 2012 or 13. I can say that since that time, with the growth of tennis, with the addition of pickleball and the other items that have been required within the sports complex, that he's hired one extra person to assist in all of the endeavors. So he has 4 on his crew right now.
Okay.
Whether or not that's enough to maintain a day-to-day integrity of those items that you are specific to from the tennis committee, which I saw the tennis committee's
long list, yeah.
list. I kind of think that there's we have the tennis committee recommends a court maintenance company to be hired, and you have the duties to include, and you have 2 pages full of tasks and duties. I asked Alan to highlight those and find out which ones he does currently and which ones that should be a court maintenance. But all this being said, I think that Chat is probably going to address the situation to try to get us from point A to B.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let me go ahead. I don't want to go back 15 years. I want to go back to about 6 months. The point is, Mark, and I think Lanny, and any tennis players would agree, there's been a deterioration of what's been done in this area in the last, let's say, 3 to 6 months.
There's going to be, if you let me go on, we're going to address this issue.
Yeah.
Okay. It's coming into focus for me now. We've got 2 issues here. Let's deal with the first one first. The first one is grooming. Evidently, tennis would like to do something other than what we do now to take care of the grooming.
Not really. No, that's not right. Let me.
Whoa, whoa. You
That's
said
not
you were
correct.
you were looking at going outside and eliminating the current job.
But the reason for going outside would just to be put it all in one package. There's not a problem with the current grooming. The problem is in the janitorial. So the proposed solution is just move the grooming janitorial all to a contractor and get it all done by one thing.
Got it. I understand.
So there's no incentive. We're not proposing to change the grooming, except it's a way of managing the janitorial by putting it all together. Got
All right,
that?
I'm sorry, I
Okay.
understand it now.
Okay, okay,
Let me go on. I'll get to you, Lanny.
okay.
So we don't have a separate grooming issue right now. Is that correct?
The grooming's
I
okay.
just- Well, I disagree. A lot depends on what you mean by grooming. If you just strictly mean the brushing of the courts, the problem we have there is that they too often will tear up the tape or pull up nails and don't repair those. So when players go to play, they fall and get injured. I consider that part of the court grooming.
Well,
The
who's
other
doing
part
that?
of
Who's doing the grooming now, Lanny, that tears up the nets?
Alan's crew.
That, hold on.
Uh-huh.
Here's where I actually go out and watch what's going on after, and I can just tell you that even though you think that I don't do a whole lot, sometimes I'm out watching what's going on. You have two people that help out this situation. Krister is one, and the other person right now is Bill. When Bill uses the broom to groom the courts, he sweeps the clay and it pushes it up underneath those tapes and starts to lift it. When you use the rake in the morning, the rake goes over it and makes sure that it doesn't, but it also goes right over those areas that have pockets by the service line. And those pockets by the service line, those bird baths, that's part of grooming that is not being done. The looting is not being done. There's 2 pallets of clay that we made sure that we ordered, and it's sitting down in maintenance that has not been touched. So there is a grooming issue. It is not all janitorial, and Alan's crew is not responsible for putting down clay, rolling it in, making sure the lines are down and tacked in with a hammer or a roller. That is not his purview, nor does it ever have been. I have Krister's job description from when he was hired many years ago, and that is specific to the grooming that takes place on those courts. I think that you can all, from those of you that have played here for many, many years, know that the amount of time that has been spent by that person on the courts has diminished over the years. Krister used to be out here in the mornings. He used to be on the courts in a fairly regular fashion. For a while, and Brownie, to your point, Krister damaged his knee at his other job and was out for a period of about 6 to 8 weeks on workers' compensation because he couldn't work. We
Oh.
didn't, and yes, so there was some issues, and Alan tried to pick up the pace. We have asked to try to get some help. I'm just telling you that there's a
Yeah.
little bit of who shot John in this, and I think
Well,
that.
let me make
once
an
again,
observation. Let me stand back and make this an observation here.
This is
Well,
We've
why
got-
I didn't-
We've got,
I
no,
didn't
let
get
me
to
make an
finish.
observation.
Cap
We've
is
got
gonna be
Alan's
able to-
crew
be able to
involved.
match this.
We've got Kristoff involved. We've got this person involved. We got the part of the problem is everybody's blaming someone else. Standing
That's it.
back, maybe that's the reason on a long-term basis, getting a contractor to do everything, and that we don't get into arguments of who did what and who's going to do what. That one contractor has the responsibility for the grooming, fixing it, the tapes, doing the janitorial and everything. But it sounds like to me, we've almost got so many people involved. And then when something involved doesn't, like you say, he was out 6 weeks, which I didn't know that, then the system kind of falls apart. So maybe that's an argument of why we ought to look at contracting and get the grooming and janitor all in a package.
Lanny?
Brownie, I definitely support that statement. Mark, I want to clarify, I'm not expecting Alan's crew to fix things. The tears were occurring over the summer in the morning. So Bill wasn't involved. Our expectation is that they report those problems to Paul so he can do something to fix them. And
I can show you the texts and emails specific to all of those that were going to be done, because we keep very careful documentation about what we want to be done on those courts that sometimes does not get to meet the expectations of the membership. So yes.
All right, here's what we're gonna
Well,
do, folks.
but-
Here's what we're
but-
gonna do. We could talk about this for hours and we're getting nowhere. Here's what we should do. I have challenged Mark to, for the next 6 weeks, conduct a twice a week walkthrough of all of our outdoor recreation activities, including tennis, and get back to us with his findings and his recommendation for how we deal with grooming and janitorial issues, if the finding is we have some, because frankly, I don't know. I mean, this is all hearsay, probably because I don't play tennis, but I don't know what to believe anymore. We're all over the place. So I've asked Mark to conduct, again, I'll tell you, for the next 6 weeks in advance of the next board meeting, a twice a week walkthrough, report his findings, and recommend to us any changes that we need to make. And that change could be, I don't know, a change could be hire a company to do all the grooming and janitorial stuff. I don't know. I just don't know.
Chap, can we include Paul to go with those walkthroughs? I don't see how we got to have Paul involved in that also.
I wouldn't have any problem with that. Do you have a problem with that, Mark?
Not at all. It just is, Paul's a very busy man. It's difficult to find the times for him to make those trips. And that's just a situation where he's here early in the morning at 6 o'clock a.m. He could probably do some work, and maybe even if he did some of those and pointed them in my direction, that would be great. Other than that, I'll be out there on the times that I want to take a look at when there's play and when there's not play, so that I can see what's going on. Sometimes in the afternoons when there's not a soul on the courts because it's in the middle of grooming, the afternoon grooming for leagues, it's a great time for me to go find out whether or not how the courts have been picked up and what's going on. I think that that's something that chap, it's a great idea. I've got some ideas, and it's I can come back with a fairly good report, and I'll include Paul at all times just to make sure that he's in the loop because it is his department.
All I'm proposing is that we codify this issue. You know, enough secondhand and third-hand and first-hand observations. We're going to codify it, and we'll take it up after Mark has had a chance to perform, if I'm correct, about 10 or 12 walkthroughs in the next 6 weeks, along with Paul, and come back to us. What kind of problem do we have and what do we do about it?
I mean, I will tell you all, I do agree that there is a situation out there that needs attention from both sides, from the grooming side and from the janitorial side. I fully agree with all of you. And that is something that we need to look at and rectify so that it can be taken care of in the most, I guess, the most responsible fiscal way to do it. I think it's just, we may be asking for the current staffing. It's kind of like having your two people at the cabana, that's one's running food and one's bartending, and 40 or 50 people decide to come down to the cabana, and all of a sudden the service is horrendous and nothing's being done because they aren't getting nobody's waiting on them. We have 350 memberships now. I can't believe that they don't provide some usage factor on the grounds to create some of this new need. That's
So you all
part of
know
it.
what I'm proposing here is, Lanny?
Well, I understand that, and I'm fine with that, with the one exception. If we have concurrence that there's a problem that needs to be addressed, I think we need to fund some solution in our budget. We're planning to pass the budget today. Brownie has asked to address it by decreasing the tennis reserve profits, whatever you want to call it, so that there is money to cover this. And so when we get to that, I just think it's important that if we acknowledge that there is a problem that needs to be addressed, that we budget money to fund it.
Well, we'll deal with that, Lonnie, just like we deal with every other issue that comes up when it comes up. We'll deal with it.
But that's
not gonna-
today.
No, it's not, Lanny. During the course of the year, things always come
Oh,
up
I see what
that
you
need
mean.
to be
Okay.
addressed.
So,
and-
so you don't
if
want a budget to solve this problem?
No, I
Okay,
want to know, no. John?
Okay. What we have in the budget right now, I'll save that for later. We have in the budget right now, we had $20,000 to it. The tennis profit is so understated, it will cover it and then some. But we'll go into that later when I go over the budget. Thank you.
Oh, wait, Terry's had his hand up several times.
Yeah,
Terry?
Terry?
All I want to do is just kind of parrot what Chappie said. What we want to do is codify this so that we don't make recommendations based on anecdotal incidents. It's just not the right way to do things. So we're trying to do this in a professional manner. So in 6 weeks, we should have an idea of what the problem is and begin to develop an answer for it. It's as simple as that. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Chap.
Let me make sure all the tennis people understand. I think that there's probably some issues out there. I'm not against fixing them. I just want to know the extent of the issues and how do we fix them? Right now, we don't know the answer to either one of those. That's all. So are we good with this, Lanny?
Yes.
I just want to point out that I think the tennis committee did a very professional job in outlining what the problems are. Granted, there's not counts, but I don't think it's appropriate to say that they didn't do a professional job on the information that they've given the board on this issue.
Nobody said that. I didn't say that.
Terry did.
No, I didn't.
All right, let's not get into a food fight here. Nobody's criticizing the tennis operation or the tennis
Again,
committee.
just let me make my observation. I think it's one of those cases, there's too many different people involved in trying to do one thing.
Well, maybe,
That's-
Brownie, maybe the ultimate solution is what you have on your mind.
Yeah.
I just
that's what I'm
don't
saying.
know.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
But the thing that I don't really understand, and what I was trying to understand and asking Mark a few questions, this wasn't a problem a year ago, okay, or 6 months ago. It's been a fairly recent problem. Maybe it's gotten worse. Maybe there were some issues. There's always going to be some issues, but it's definitely gotten worse. And we don't need, you say it's anecdotal. Well, dozens of anecdotal add up to a problem, okay? And they're fairly specific on what they are. Emptying the garbage out, you know,
Well,
having the
Brownie, we're
chair
not
straight.
tabling it. We're going to do
Yeah,
something about
I
it.
know.
We're going to do it in an organized fashion.
I
That's
know.
all.
I'm just a little thing I guess I disagree with is basically your position is we don't know what the problem is, Shep. That's what you're saying. Hopefully we
Well,
can fix it.
I know there's a problem. I don't know the magnitude of it, and I don't know what the solution is. So give Mark 6 weeks. Give Mark and Paul
And make
6
sure
weeks.
it's Mark and Paul, Paul, that they're involved, both of them.
All right, let's move on. Lanny, how
guess-
about telling us what we're going to do on these monuments?
Okay. I thought. we were
Lanny
gonna
has
do
a
that.
landscaping report too.
Oh,
Did you want me to jump to new business or continue on committee reports?
It came in after the agenda went out, so landscaping should be under committee reports and then she can.
all right, let's do
follow.
landscaping, then we'll go to monuments.
Okay. Does everyone have my landscaping committee report or do I need to read it? Tell me this, if anyone doesn't have it in front of you, raise your hand and I'll take care of that. Chap doesn't, okay. The landscaping committee has been actively doing site visits and meeting to discuss priorities. They've identified over 100 areas of high priority need from the priority list from the 2020 committee, as well as new observations. They met on October 25th. Committee members had agreed last spring to share leadership. At this time, I want to thank Caroline Pontrelli for serving as chair for the last 6 months. And I move that the board approve Joe DeMaio as the new landscaping committee chair. Do I
Second.
have a second?
I
Thank you.
second that motion. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously carries.
Thank you. The landscaping committee unanimously approved the attached proposal for additional phase 3 plantings. I move to approve the Brightview proposal for $3,062.83 for plantings.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next. Carries.
The landscaping committee discussed the extraordinary number of homeowner complaints about pine straw and mulch applications. Many homeowners did not respond to the request for preferences. Some complained that they got pine straw they didn't want. Others complained that they wanted pine straw to be put over top of their existing mulch, but didn't specify that. The worst problems were areas where planting beds or trees crossed property lines and adjacent homeowners disagreed on their covering choices and didn't want to see whatever their neighbor chose. In light of these issues, which are similar to previous years, but worse in intensity, the landscaping recommends that the board approve a policy change. I move that the board approves a modified process whereby pine straw will be the standard ground cover for private property and must be actively requested by any who want it. The cost will be covered by the Brightview contract. Brightview will begin their ground covering request process in March so that homeowners will have more of an opportunity to think about this while they're still here. Homeowners must request ground cover by September 1, which is the same date. If no request is received, no ground cover will be provided. If homeowners request ground cover after September 1, the request may be filled as time permits, but the cost will be higher than if it would be ordered by September 1. The intention here is to reward homeowners that get the requests in on time and make it clear that homeowners who do not submit requests on time cannot expect to get what they want when they want at the discounted price. Do I have a second?
I'll second it so we can discuss it. The difference, Lanny, is right now the process works. A homeowner has to opt out. In this recommendation, the process would be they have to opt in. Isn't that the simple way to look at it?
That's one component. The other component is to make it clear that if they don't follow instructions and still want something, they're not going to get it at the same price as they would if they asked when they were supposed to.
This is Cezanne, you're going to have to get on the horn here. Because this is really a logistics issue, an office logistics issue. So talk, right?
It's
So
handled by Brightview.
the first I heard about this proposal was when I read the report. It can go either way. You're never going to get 432 homeowners to opt in. So I think it'll be a mess the other way. I think the way we have it works. Brightview should have just probably installed pine straw everywhere. as their contract says, rather than taking a guess if somebody didn't want it because they may have had mulch.
My question, it says on, is the proposal make everyone's life easier, harder, or no different?
We don't handle the request at this time. Brightview has. I don't know if this proposal came from Brightview. Mark, did this come from
Yes.
Dustin?
This came from Brightview. They had several issues with people just simply not wanting to be on the portal, not wanting to put in a ticket, not wanting to follow the guidelines that had been there. They wanted to be able to make a phone call or just do nothing and see what happened. And then, it hasn't been much different than it has in the past, except for that the office staff hasn't had to deal with the phone calls and insanity. They dealt with them a little bit more. This has to do with people who have mulch down in Manatee and in Wildcat, especially where you have paired villas. One, you all know the Lesters, half wanted mulch, half wanted pine straw. Well, where do you put it down through? There's a tree in the front yard. One wanted on half the tree and one wanted on the other half of the tree trunk. So, this is where the landscaping, spreading people, trying to understand the nuances of the homeowner's wishes just got to be very frustrating. So we've had several homeowners who have been upset about the process. They didn't feel they got what they should have. They didn't like the fact that they had to, go onto the portal and create a ticket. It's just this, it's the
But
same.
it sounds like they're gonna have to go on the portal to create a ticket to opt in.
I agree. It's at least the good thing is that, it wasn't in our office like it has been in the past. So I don't have a problem with doing something to make it better for Brightview, but once again, it's just a difficult situation. If we had no mulch and pine straw twice a year, we wouldn't have to worry.
Well, I'll let everybody come in. Just let me say that I think either way we go, you're still gonna have problems. With
Okay.
people not wanting or being able to or neglecting to use the portal. Brownie?
Okay. I would definitely vote against this because I'm not for an opt-in. Everybody should have pine straw if you don't change it. So if we have people opt in, we'll end up having, as CSUN said, half the people end up with nothing. Okay. So I'm completely against it on that basis. Now, how we handle beyond that, there's options. But I will say this, I go into the Brightview portal and I use it. I find it very unfriendly. Sometimes I have to go back in to read it. Sometimes they send me an email. I never quite know what Brightview's, what they're going to do. I will sympathize with people who don't want to go into the portal. It is not easy. You got a whole nother password and everything. And that change did, I think, cause the problems. So you can say they had to follow the rules and go into it, but the portal is not an easy thing to use.
All right, John?
Agreed.
Yeah, like two questions. One is, okay, by giving this choice or not choice, whatever it is going to cost more. And number two is, I want to hear from all the people who this affects, like Terry, and we heard from Brownie and Lonnie already, but John and Terry and yourself, what do you think about it? Because I don't know anything about it, so I really don't have an opinion just on if it's going to cost us more.
All I know is, I'll answer your question. All I know is once a year I have to opt out if I want to opt out. I go to the portal and I opt out. Easy peasy.
Yeah, but on the other hand, chap, I don't have to opt in to be able to get the pine straw.
Right.
So that's
Right.
fine with me. I'm good with the way it's been run.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
agree with John. I don't want to change it either.
All right, we have a motion on the table that's been seconded. Lanny?
I just want to answer John's question. It should cost us less if people don't opt in, then we wouldn't be paying for pine straw that's going on houses that families don't want. It certainly costs us more to have Brightview go back and take it off when families complain. And we might think about not supporting them doing that at no charge, but it would cost Sterling Oaks less if we went to this system. Suzanne, to answer one of your questions, what Brightview really wanted was to turn it over to the office and for you to give them a list of who wants what. And I told them that we had tried that before and we weren't going to do that again. So that was their first.
I don't mind doing it. My problem is that nobody will give me a price for mulch or pine bark. So I can't answer questions from the homeowners on how much it's going to cost. So if they want to work up those prices next year, I don't have a problem for people going online and submitting forms like I did for Leo Jr. But we'll just have to work through that next year. But I just, when I read this, you're just never going to get 432 people to respond. I can't even get them to read an email. So for everybody to opt into Pine Straw, it's just going to be more, it's going to be worse than what we had.
Mike?
I agree with Suzanne. It's going to be worse. And what do we do with these people who don't opt in and just don't do anything, year after year, and then the landscaping becomes, deteriorated.
Well, it's pretty obvious where this is going. We have a motion on the table. It's been seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails. Okay, let's move on to monuments.
Okay, one moment.
I have a question. I can't find information on the monument. Was that a separate thing you sent out?
I sent it with the landscaping committee report. It's very short. I'll read it.
Oh, then that's why, then I do have it. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was something separate. Okay.
The board of directors asked the landscaping committee to develop a proposal for updating our monuments. The target budget is $50,000. We learned that we are limited to 8 feet. Our current front monuments are 7 feet, so we cannot add an arch. This limitation also limits the amount of text that can be visible. The landscaping committee recommends removing the tree logo. This version has no logo and no tagline. I don't have a photo of that, so the photo that you have has the tree and the tagline, but just white it out in your mind. The landscaping committee recommends that the board approve the attached proposal for 4 monuments, 2 at the front gate and 2 at the back gate. I move the board approves the renovation of our front and back monuments as noted in the attached proposal from Linkness at a cost of $46,177.60.
Okay, I'll second that motion. And let me be the first to discuss this. I think, Lanny, the best way for people to envision the change would be to look at our monument versus Audubon. Is that right? In terms of the brick columns, if you will, instead of concrete block columns.
And stucco. Correct.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
The coloring is different, of course. Ours will be
What would the
gray.
color be?
The monuments will be gray and the print, the Sterling Oaks will be in black and it'll be
Okay.
backlit at night.
Okay. All right.
All
All right. Brownie?
I'm still confused. This sounds like the same earlier proposal. I don't have a separate package on that. In other words,
It is the same as the earlier proposal, except no tennis rackets and no community and tennis club.
okay, so it's still about, as you
It just
said,
says
40,
Sterling,
about $50,000. Okay, so,
it just
I did-
says Sterling Oaks.
okay. Okay, so for some reason I didn't get that you were going to repropose that. I don't have that anywhere.
Well, it's the same proposal as last time, except there's No
Okay.
logo and no
Okay.
lettering below Sterling Oaks. It just says
Okay.
Sterling Oaks,
Okay,
period.
so my comment is, if same proposal, I'm still against it for the same reason. I don't think the amount of change justifies that price.
Okay. Lauren?
I just need a little background. Why was the monument issue even brought up? I don't think I was in the board. Was it to increase the visibility from the street? Was it to just redo it a little so it looked different? I mean, what was the purpose?
My recollection is primarily aesthetics. What we have is old and shabby. Mark, what can you add to that?
It was brought up by a previous, your predecessor, Lindia, some time ago when it was part of the landscaping committee at the time, when they felt that there was some needed improvements to the front entrance to get the place looking a little more modern than the 1988 design that's out there. And that's where she first brought it up. It's gone through several iterations. It definitely, you know, nobody, you go by it fast, but if you walk up to it and look at it, you can tell that the letters definitely need to be changed out. We fixed the letters and the sign numerous times with tape and glue. The lighting right now is really just a light that shines on it at night, if you know, that comes up from the flower beds. And we felt that backlit letters, which are now LED availability, would be much nicer and show up much nicer and modernize that fact. We felt that getting rid of the foam, sort of old foams, pineapple look around the top of the thing with the cement block, concrete block look would enhance it as well. And I think that that's where the landscape committee took it again upon them and went out and went to several communities in the area to try to find what other communities are doing to modernize this. And that's where the stone comes into play. Really, it's going to create I think, a real look that would enhance the visibility of Sterling Oaks from the outside to show us as a little more modern community, and that we're kind of in touch with the reality of the modern world versus just staying put with the when those first monuments were erected was I think 1993 or 4 when the first SDP went in for this community.
Okay, so it looks like Audubon has done painting. I don't know if they've done anything.
They took away the stucco. They've changed it. They've painted and actually changed their letters. If you know, yep, it's completely different. They've really made it stand out. So you drive by there, it pops, especially at night.
It looks good. It does look good. I mean, to me, $47,000 sounds like a lot of money, but I have nothing really to compare it to. Is it a complete haul down and rebuilding of it, or is it?
No.
Can we get by with just new lettering, paint, spruce it up for a lesser cost?
That was done a couple of years ago.
That was.
I mean, the lettering wasn't, but the whole painting of the place, and that's actually the new paint job. If you remember, they used to be yellow.
Right.
Remember, like the old yellow that was on the condos? Those front signs used to be yellow, and at least we've changed that, but it's still with the old green and everything else. It's faded. It doesn't have the same appeal as a modern sign, and it's just something that was part of the strategic planning, and I think part of the actual strategic planning process. It's in there as well.
But it doesn't give us the ability to raise it. So
Collier County put a moratorium on increasing the heights of existing monuments. Even new ones are not allowed to be higher than 8 feet if they abut the main road of 41. So ones in the past were able to do it. Whatever happened downtown, growth management, they put a kibosh on that.
So the backlighting would give it more visibility at night, because I have to admit, some nights you're not paying attention.
It'll you'll be able to see it much better at night.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ronnie?
I'll come back to my point. I have no details of this. I have no picture of it. of what's exactly going to be done. I don't know if this is a rehash of what we voted down a couple of months ago. I don't know because I do not have anything except words. So
I'll
I
I'll
go
send
back,
it.
well, I haven't finished. I
He,
haven't
he already
finished.
sent, she sent
I
all
haven't
that to you.
finished. We just voted down a shelter because we didn't have a detail. It had a detailed thing with the quotes and you knew what it looked like. I'm completely confused why we're even considering this without knowing what it is. I have no idea what it is. And if it's exactly what we voted down a couple of months ago, why we bring it back up again? And I don't see it on the, I don't have it in any package that I got before this meeting.
We voted it down because of
It was never voted
resistant.
down.
We
It
voted,
was tabled.
it was tabled because of resistance to anything other than having the thing say Sterling Oaks. I think my memory's correct on that.
No, that wasn't the reason I voted against it. I voted against it because it was too much money, because we couldn't really make much of a change, because we
Okay.
can't make it higher. The original project on this was to make it bigger, higher, even to move it. And then that was all nixed by the county. So I voted against it because it was $50,000 for not much of a change. And I don't know what's changed since then.
Yes, right.
Plus, I didn't realize we were
And I
going
still
to
should
vote on
go.
the same thing again.
Brownie, we never voted on it. You expressed your opinion, but no vote was ever taken. I will send it to you again. Everybody else has it.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, we have John, tell everyone what pot or pots of money this is coming out of if we do it.
This will come out of reserves and our capital fund,
Okay,
either long-term or capital expense and reserves.
all right, we have a motion on the table. We've had good discussion. We know how it's being paid for. So all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like 6 and 7 in favor, 2 against, motion carries.
I'm sorry, who are
Okay.
the 2 opposed?
You didn't ask against.
Oh, I just didn't, I just
Okay,
used
thank you.
math. I just used math.
Well, you don't use
Opposed is-
math. Someone might abstain. You should always ask against. You
All right,
might
who's
abstain.
against? Raise your hand. Brownie and John Mayhawk
Right.
are the no's. Okay, motion carries 7-2. Okay, now we're gonna go on to new business. First one is easy to explain. We have a paired villa roof replacement issue at 15095/15099 Sterling Oaks Drive. What I can tell you is the people at 15095 have submitted extensive evidence of the need for a new roof, including the receipts for them having spent $5,000 plus or minus 500 to make repairs and to take care of any internal damage they've had from water leaks. There've also been 2 opinions from licensed roofing companies that the roof cannot be repaired anymore. It has to be replaced. You have to do 15099 along with it because otherwise you're doing half a roof. So I move that we approve an early roof replacement for the paired villa at 15095 and 15099 Sterling Oaks Drive.
Second,
What was the schedule? When would it be replaced if this hadn't happened?
It was
Susan?
originally scheduled for 2023, so it's only moving up 1 year.
It's only one, okay.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Carries 8-1. Mr. Mihawk is opposed. Okay, next, we're gonna have to wait for Mark because we've got to vote on replacing some kitchen equipment, back gate barcode reader. And Mark's got to take us through that. Mark, you want to take us through the kitchen equipment and the back gate barcode reader
Okay.
that you need approval on?
Kitchen equipment is simply the replacement of the existing cooking line, sans the deep fat fryer. We've had problems with the stove and oven. Several repairs have been made over the years. It's 10 years old, and it's in the reserves to be replaced. And we're asking that we replace it pretty much with like and same. And the barcode reader is it's the barcode reader that works for most people at the back gate, but it doesn't work for all the people at the back gate. And this is just something that we've had issues with from the beginning. We found out that after inspection of it and taking pictures and sending it off to the various companies, that there is corrosion on one of the parts in there that throws out the laser beam lights that read the barcode. And for whatever reason, there are just several cars that we've replaced the barcodes 2, 3, 4 times just to try to see if it was something user error or other, but everybody has concluded that it's the barcode reader to some degree. If we get this new one, it'll be the same as the ones on the front gate, which have been infallible, knock on wood. Either case, if we have a lightning strike, if we have a problem, this one will be sent to the factory to get refurbished, so be brand new. We'll keep it in the box and have it ready when and if something happens to one of the existing barcode readers, that we can utilize it ASAP.
All right, let's take them one at a time. How much is the kitchen equipment, please? So I can make a motion.
Hang on. Getting past all of the 42 pages here. All right, here we are. Kitchen equipment. I'm actually asking only for the kitchen equipment to be totaled of $20,398.80.
And how much for the barcode?
Our code is 9,600 and barcode reader. Barcode reader from 9,654.38.
Okay,
What about the freezer chest?
Yeah, the kitchen stuff
Freezer
looks
chest,
like
we're
it's,
gonna, we're looking at getting, we've gotten that off to the side. That's not part of that situation.
I don't,
Okay, it was in our packet. That's why I
I
asked.
realize that. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Nikki, was looking to get everything. She's taking care of all that though with her suppliers.
Mark,
all right, I we approve the replacement of the kitchen equipment for $20,500. I believe most of it's reserved, if not all of it. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I had a question, Mark. Okay. We didn't, I was under the impression part of the renovation included new kitchen equipment. It did not?
We replaced nothing in the kitchen during the renovation.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I guess
nothing.
it was just that big storage area that the kitchen.
That's the only thing we built was a storage.
Okay,
Nothing in the kitchen was
I thought
touched.
we were, okay. Okay.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No opposition? Motion carries. I further move authorize the replacement of the back gate barcode reader for total of $9,700. Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Now, I have something on the agenda that I don't think we're ready to talk about today, having to do with bocce and pickleball furniture. Is there anything we need to discuss at this meeting on that?
The only
Mark?
thing is, that in further discussions with Cezanne, she felt that I guess pickleball felt that getting these aluminum chairs that do not have slings or cushions, getting them for pickleball would be a great testing site to find out how they work, rather than wanting to know whether or not they would be, I guess, a kind of a new wave of furniture for the entire, property. Because if we're going to be consistent, as we talked at the EC, then if we're going to get something new for one place and it's going to be here on property at bocce and it's going to be at pickleball as well, should it be, available for tennis? And then what about the pool area as well? So I think that they talked about, CC, tell me how this, was it going to be just pickleball or pickleball and bocce?
Well, there's a whole proposal for new tables and chairs is one part of it for pickleball and bocce. And I chose not to get a proposal for the slings that are currently in place everywhere, because you are constantly replacing the slings on the loungers and the chairs, and they're constantly ripping. So buying slings for these just seems like a waste of money, because you're just we just approved another bid today to replace slings, and
Well, no, actually, that the slings that I ordered last Thanksgiving have not arrived today for the chairs out on the property. So this is
Is there
something
a
that we have.
proposal to be, is there a proposal to be made? Right, at this
yes,
meeting, for the
Well, I-
purchase of new
Yes,
Yes,
furniture for bocce and pickleball?
yes. In your packet, I submitted a proposal for furniture replacement, which would be
Okay.
about $12,617 for tables and chairs for these areas, a little over $4,000 for benches in the pickleball area, and about $1,300 for a larger bike rack in the pickleball area. So a total of almost $18,000 on these items in total.
And this is all new assets, is it not?
No, these would be reserves.
we have the chairs that were passed down to us from tennis. And now
Yeah.
we need new chairs. So
When,
we've, as far as bocce, we said the metal chairs would be fine. And the pickleball chairs and tables would be fine. And the benches would be fine. The only question I've got, Suzanne, are they going to match the benches that are at the end that were bought by people?
yeah, I'll make sure when we order the benches that we get the same color scheme. These will be 8-foot benches instead of 6-foot to give you guys more seating, since you have generally large crowds down there in normal circumstances. But after Len's letter in the last board meeting, I did a walkthrough with Len Falco and a member that's currently present for the pickleball committee to see since I'm their staff liaison, to see what maintenance items needed to be addressed. And doing that walkthrough, I found multiple broken chairs, rusty tables, dirty tables and chairs. So I developed a maintenance list, and one of those was to get a proposal on new tables and chairs for these areas.
I would suspect that most of this is new money, and that what we have, I can't believe there's any reserve money for it, but that's not a big deal. It's just an observation. John, do you have any comment on that?
If there are fixed assets, no matter how old they are, they should be in reserves. And if we're getting new ones that aren't replacing something, that will come out of capital, but most of this
Okay.
in reserves.
Yeah, I'm not, anyway. Lauren,
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the pool. Because
well, can we stay on this?
well,
or
it
do
would
we-
be part of the furniture. So if we're talking about furniture, what are we going to do about the lack of lounge chairs at the pool area?
There's no
I
lack.
think that,
Certainly
let's
not
talk
enough.
about, let's
There's
talk
no lack
about
of
that
lounge
after
chairs.
we're
We
done,
have several.
after we're done with
Got
this.
Plenty to put
That's a
down
whole
there.
new subject. Let's talk about that when we're done with this. Brownie?
Well, I'm with Lauren a little bit. It's not a new subject. I walk around the back, we've got chairs everywhere. We've got high chairs, low chairs, chairs with the net, well, a million different types. Before we buy any of the chairs, I'd like to standardize rather than it looks like for what's on these things. It's a new type of chair. Could we, I feel like there's so many different chairs out there everywhere. And then we move them around. They say they were hand-me-downs. Well, they were fine before they were hand-me-downs. I would like to see before we buy any more chairs to kind of look at the pool, the outside area, the bocce, the tennis and everything, and be a little consistent in what we are going to end up using. You know, we try something and then we go to something else. So I'm against it until we kind of uniform things a little bit.
I
So
agree.
your proposal would be then that we table this till we have a comprehensive look at all our outside
Yeah,
furniture. Is that right?
Yeah. To me, it's like help us. There's all kinds of chairs out there. Go and look at it sometime.
I don't disagree with that. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to understand it, make sure I understand it. John?
Yeah, but I thought, as Mark said earlier, that's what we're starting to do. We gotta replace these chairs, okay? So we're gonna come up with a new kind that anytime we have to replace chairs, will be this kind. So we can't get the old kind's not good. So we gotta start somewhere. And I think the plan is that they start with the bocce and the pickleball. And if those are good, it'd be continued onto tennis and onto the pool. Correct, Mark?
Well, let me just give you a little history. And Lanny, you can back me up, maybe even Brownie. Some years ago, we decided that we were going to get chairs for tennis. They had the old green chairs.
White chairs.
White.
Then they decided they wanted white chairs.
No,
And-
reverse. They had all white and then they decided they wanted all green.
So here's the tennis committee and its users wanting to have specific chairs at their tennis shelters. When you go to the pool, that's a whole different world. And the people that were, let's say, kibitzing on what to put down at the pool, and if you all remember, if you were on the board a couple years ago,
I'll be right back.
what do we have? Slings? Should we have webbed chairs like we used to? No, let's have slings. No, we want high slings that are higher above the ground than the regular ones. And what fabric do we put on? I don't like that color fabric. Oh my gosh. We ended up at the pool with what we have today, which is vastly different what tennis had. Bocce, bless their heart, yes, has the old tables and chairs that were probably down at the pool before we got the new stuff. The pickleball received hand-me-downs. Those tables and chairs have been spray painted, fixed, repaired over time. And it is time for those two areas to get new furniture. And hopefully we can, have this work. But I just have to caution you that the people that are going to be sitting in chairs at the pickleball and bocce and on the benches down there are going to come and go. They're not lounging around the pool. So I would say that the pool chairs and its environs probably going to have a different look and feel over time than those two areas, simply because that's the way they are. But I can tell you, Lauren, just FYI, I have 50 more slings I can put out of the pool at any given time. There's no shortage of chaise lounges for the pool area whatsoever.
So were those the ones that were up on the pad where you parked that we took away because of COVID?
I took them away
Yes.
from COVID and I took them away because they were ripped. I've ordered new slings. I ordered new slings a year ago. I'm still waiting on them from
I'm
China.
sure you are, knowing what furniture availability
But,
is.
but I still have a bunch of slings that are in good shape that I can put down there.
But I would, and that's fine. So because it's definitely going to be a problem with the number of chairs.
It always
That's
is.
problem number one. And maybe
120.
worse this year than ever.
You
But I
can't
do
put-
agree.
You can't put more than 120 down
No,
there.
I understand that.
So-
I understand that. Oh, I
That's just
do
the way it
agree with
goes.
Browning that says, I think if we're worried about what the monuments look like, then I think we should be worried about the
Yeah.
fact that there should be some consistency from that pavilion in the back to the pool, to the tennis, to the pickleball and to bocce. I think it's very haphazard. It does not look good. And so I think, as we go forward, we should think about that. To John Mulligan's point, okay, if you're going to try whatever Cezanne has found for bocce and for pickleball, they get a lot less use than the pool does. But I think we should work on that sooner than later because it looks like hell, to be perfectly honest. Nothing.
Essentially, do we have a table now for this item, or are we going to go ahead and try to provide us with the chairs and tables and benches for pickleball and bocce?
I
That's the
kind of
motion
agree
on
with
the floor.
Cezanne that this might be a great a great
I-
testing spot.
I
Problem is,
agree.
Agree too.
if people don't like them,
I'm taking over the
then it's
meeting.
back to square one.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to add? You sound like you had something to say, Ken.
No, I don't have anything more. I'm in
Anybody
favor.
else?
Can somebody make a motion?
We already,
I think we already have a
I
motion.
made the motion.
Oh,
that
go
we
ahead,
And then who
Ken.
was the second?
Pickleball,
'Cause-
bocce tables.
I'll second.
chairs.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the
Now that we
motion
have a
is
motion,
approved.
is
The
there any-
motion is to approve $18,000 for the purchase of what I'll call furniture for bocce and pickleball. Is that right?
Yes.
And it's been seconded. And
Uh,
more discussion.
Right. I make a
Browning.
motion to table that until we look further in chairs that would go everywhere eventually. That we table that for now.
Any other discussion? Well, no, we gotta,
We
is
have-
there a
we have
second
to-
to that motion? Is there a second to Brownie's motion? To
You
table it.
Lauren, do you second it?
Well, I do agree with you. The problem is availability. And I mean, the bocce chairs are a mess. I mean, they really, really are. The pickleball chairs are a mess. If we were to try this with a caveat that says we will look further sooner than later to be able to look at everything, then I could agree to that. I mean, you got moldy chairs and rusty chairs, and I don't think you want people really sitting in those either. Being the pool person, I'd love to have all the chairs replaced right now, but I don't think availability of furniture is even going to happen to make that possible. So if the board could then look at it to say, then we'll put right back up on the table what we're going to do for the pool, then I could be in agreement with that.
So are you seconding Brownie's motion? to
Yeah.
Table?
Yeah, yes, I am. That was pretty long-winded, wasn't it? Yeah, I am. I'm going to second Brownie's motion.
All right, all in favor of tabling this, raise your hand. 2 opposed. Motion does not carry. All right, so we're back to the original motion to authorize the purchase of, wait a minute, Lanny, we're back to the original motion. So Lanny,
I just wanted to give some more history. Mark was talking about the tennis chairs. The reason why tennis chose to change from white to green chairs is because tennis kept losing chairs. And we wanted to be able to identify chairs as belonging to tennis because they kept being moved elsewhere on property And they weren't available for the tennis players when they went to play. So I think I certainly agree that a long-range broader plan makes some sense, but we may not want everything identical, because that can cause, it has caused problems in the past, and it could cause problems again in the future.
John?
I do have a question. I can't, what
Ronnie,
color?
I'm
What
talking
color
about-
are
Ronnie,
these?
John has the floor. John?
Okay, what color?
To that, all you gotta do is put a plate or something underneath it. If we're worried about a white chair showing up over here, we get new green chairs. That's ridiculous. Just put tennis on the bottom of it or something. So, I mean, we should be consistent throughout the community. If we're worried about someone moving it, then we put some identifier on underneath of it that you can't see. Come on, getting a different colored chair, it sounds ridiculous.
It was done when they needed to be replaced, so it was just part of the decision. There wasn't anything ridiculous. There's no way we can go around looking under every chair to find out a chair that's been taken. Just some history. There was some rationale. We may want to think about it in the future.
All right,
I
listen,
vote
guys.
for a vote.
Listen, hold on. Let me try to simplify this.
Well,
as
I have a
usually
simple
do.
question. What color are these chairs? I don't see
Gray.
the color. What color?
Great.
White.
Gray?
Yeah, that's in the proposal.
And
On the proposal, what are they? I don't find
They're a gray chair.
gray.
Yes.
Oh,
White, green, black,
so we're committing to gray chairs.
all right, is there any reason why, if we go ahead with this, we couldn't carry forward to what other chairs we eventually have to buy the same style and color?
I
Is there
thought that
any
was the
reason?
whole idea of it. When tennis needs it, they're gonna get the same thing as the other two if these other two work out.
These are gray vinyl straps. They're vinyl
No,
straps.
no, these are
Oh, they're not.
cast aluminum. These are cast aluminum. Let me bring it up. Gray
Well,
chairs.
It says the warranty's for vinyl straps for 3 years. They're no vinyl. I'm confused. I'm reading the quote. It says Admiral warrants its frames for 10 years and its vinyl straps for 3 years. So that says they're vinyl
Yeah,
strap
but-
chairs?
These are not vinyl strap chairs, so we wouldn't have the vinyl strap warranty. We would have the chairs above that are the aluminum.
Well, what's that back made of? And what is the
It's
back,
the whole chair is aluminum.
including the back and what you said
Every
on?
piece of the chair is aluminum.
Oh, okay.
That way there's no straps, there's no slings, that stuff can't rip.
What you're experiencing right now is the change in committees and the change in a board.
So we're
Future
basically,
boards may change your decisions, just like you are changing their decisions.
so we're
All I
going
did was
all
try to
metal
propose
chairs.
something that they have, or that not necessarily that they have, but that's on for available in 20 weeks that won't rip.
Okay.
John
Hang on.
Mihawk.
Call for a vote.
Why don't we get a sample of these so
Yeah,
people
I can get a
see-
sample to you in 20 weeks.
so it sounds like to me we're making this decision on what we're buying because we can't get what we might want. It sounds all the more reason to table it for a while till the supply chain gets back working.
I'm not understand. This is what I'm proposing because the slings break and the straps break. So there's not another chair out there that doesn't have slings or straps besides this one that's proposed.
Or plastic, but that has disadvantages too.
And the gray color is going to hide the dirt problem that we constantly have with the white chairs. So this was kind of an in-between. We're only asking for 32 of them in 2 small spots. We're not buying 180 for the pool and tennis. Let's give these a try in our 2 smallest sports amenities and see how they work. So that way, when the tennis and the pool furniture is due to be replaced, we have an option of these if they work.
Have you seen one of these? Is there one
Personally,
available?
I have not seen this specific chair, but I have seen aluminum chairs before.
But we can't get a sample. They don't even have a sample on the floor or something.
Correct. They don't provide samples. We'd have to order one and be on the wait list.
I support Suzanne's proposal to give these a try. We know that breakage has been a huge problem for most venues, not the pool, but for most, or not for loungers, but for most venues, they probably are going to be our best solution. Let's give them a try.
Thank
I
you.
agree. Let's vote.
All right, we have a motion on the table. It's been seconded. We've had ample discussion, I think. So all in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All opposed? One. Brownie is the only opposition, I believe.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, and Chap, before you get to the budget, I'd asked Lanny to put another item on the agenda, which I see didn't show up. She indicated to me, I thought it was going to be on the agenda. That was what I will call security for the pickleballs courts. I understand we're pretty much become the free place for everybody to play. We've spent a lot of money on a security, on a card system for the pools, for the fitness. We're very strict on the tennis membership, but yet we have people coming here to play pickleball who are not guests, who are not members. We spent a couple $100,000 on the 3 courts. Now we're spending more money on new furniture. We need to do something about security for pickleball. Because when all of our people get here in the spring, it's for our members. It doesn't matter if it's getting used. If they're not a member, they're not a guest with somebody who is a member, they shouldn't be playing pickleball there. I even
Well, I'm not
understand.
sure. I read the, I think I understand the issue, but why didn't somebody refresh my memory? What's the issue?
So the issue from
The
what
issue
I
is people playing pickleball that are not members and are not
There's
modified
also a-
guests.
There's also a Pat Devereaux who lives in Wildcat, who is giving lessons on the courts. And he reserves a court to do that. I would think that when he reserves a court, we could monitor with the cameras and find out for sure. Because he's reserving a court at least 3 to 5 times a week right now.
We're gonna have a pickleball committee in the next few weeks. Can we discuss this there? Because this is the first I'm really hearing about it. So if there's a complaint, I'd like to talk about it with the committee to try to figure out some solutions.
Well, this is a board issue. We have very strict about memberships and who pays, and particularly being a tennis member, about all the static tennis gets. We can't have pickleball open to the public. And I saw a guy last night on his bicycle with his pickleball leaving about right before dark out the back gate on his bicycle. I'm sure he was not a member. He had his bicycle and went out his back gate with his pickleball thing. And this is what I've heard. I noticed we want a new bicycle route. I understand there's a number of people riding in here from the outside. It's the way they get through the gate. They ride their bicycles. We need to do something. We spent a lot of money on security, worrying about the pool, the fitness ball. We spent a lot of money. Those pickleball courts are for members that don't charge anything extra, but they're for members and bona fide guests only.
The 2
Period.
people that played last night were outside non-resident tennis members that purchased memberships for pickleball use.
You have memberships for pickleball?
They can either buy a social membership or a tennis membership to use the pickleball courts, but there was 2 people playing last night and they were outside members. And we asked for the purchase of the bike rack because there's now no parking available at the pickleball courts for vehicles. So people do have to ride their bikes to the courts.
Yeah, well, the other day on tennis, I was on court 4 and I saw 2 people come in, park no, there weren't members because they had no barcodes. They went over and played pickleball and then they left. They obviously, I don't know if they were guests, but they weren't with anybody that was a member.
We need an assessment of the project, of the problem, and a recommendation from the bocce committee for what, if anything, we
Pickleball
do
committee.
about it.
Pickleball committee.
That's what I meant, pickleball. John?
No, yeah, I mean, you can't make any decision today. You gotta find out, okay, Brownie, who are these people? You don't know. So let's get somebody involved. The pickleball committee should have the right to be able to say yeah or no, what's going on. Just because you see somebody, I know probably 20 different people that are tennis members that play pickleball, if not more. Okay, they ride their bikes there. Okay, so maybe this person you saw last night drive over to the tennis court, park their car, rode. That could have been a guest. So, I mean, we're not gonna make any rash decisions today on this.
No, we can't. We don't know anything.
Right,
I
so,
mean, basically, the only sensible thing to do here,
yeah,
Well, let me
is-
say that before we make rash decisions. We spent a lot of money on a security card system and we really never got data on how much of a problem it was with the pool to the fitness, which I didn't ever think it was that much of a problem. So, I mean, we spent a lot
I
of
can
money
get a
on
quote to add
security.
a card reader at the pickleball courts and submit it at, the next upcoming board meetings.
do we have a card reader at the tennis courts?
You do not.
Yeah, okay, I didn't think so.
But we have people at least working in there in the shop. There's some kind of monitoring in the fact, okay?
If you go through the shop,
look,
yeah.
the solution to
Only
this,
certain hours.
this is getting silly. The solution here is to turn the issue over to the pickleball committee and have the pickleball committee get back to us and tell us what, if anything, they want to do about it. Period. We're not going to do anything today.
Oh, I wasn't expecting to do anything today, but it's a problem we need to work. And
Well, that's what I'm just
particularly when
proposing.
everybody gets here for the season.
That's what I'm proposing. We got 6 weeks till the next board meeting. Pickleball committee, meet before then and tell us if you want to do anything.
Okay, that's the reason I wanted it on the agenda, so we have somebody
Good.
working it.
It's on the agenda. Lanny?
I totally support what you just said, Chap, but I also have a question. Mark, when we talked about this the other day, you said you would check at the gate what they're doing when people drive in and say, I'm here to play pickleball. What did you find out? You're muted.
You're muted. You're muted. You're muted, Mark.
I was doing my Helen Keller. I have not had an opportunity to get with Kathy and get anything
Okay.
on that yet. I'll get that for you and I'll let you know. I really don't know if they, I can only tell you that during the day, Kathy there vets every person that comes through. If they're called in by a resident member, that's something. I doubt Kathy keeps track of whether or not it's 6 times or 12 times.
No, of course not. No, but I'm just wondering
Oh.
if she's letting them in. I don't believe she's asking for names for tennis players that come in to play. League players, for
As long
example.
as they come in and they say, I'm with the league that plays on such and such a day, yeah, that,
Okay,
I mean, it's, yeah, we've tried putting little cards in and stuff like that. It just gets to be an insanity. So,
okay.
yes, you're right. I don't know whether or not, that's league play. So, when you're dressed in stuff, there's tennis rackets all around. It's kind of obvious. I'll
Well,
ask,
some-
I'll get back with you guys.
Some clubs stop us. We have to show IDs for away league matches at some clubs. Some
Right.
clubs just wave us in. And it's not clear to me whether we have a consistent policy on that or not. Some clubs even want names.
I'll just find out. Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Okay, and if you'd inform the pickleball committee too, so that
I'll
they have that
send it on
information.
to, I'll send it on to Cezanne and Ken.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on. Only one more thing before we get to the easy part, which is the budget. and that has to do with a code of ethics for the board. I have asked Mike if he'd be amenable to developing a code of ethics for the board. Reason being, it appears that we're really in the minority in not having a code of ethics for the board, and I think we should be developing one. Mike, can you add anything to that?
Well, we did a little bit of research and most of the HOAs have a code of ethics, and we're one of the few that don't. But there's been a lot of chatter about it. There's been some chatter from the community too, why we don't have a code of ethics. So I think it's time. Mark and I did a little research, and there's a lot of sample ethic codes out there. There's templates you can get. So it's not going to be a monumental process. I think that we probably ought to get a couple of other volunteers from the board to work with me on this. And we can get a show of hands for that. And Chap, you can just select 2 other people. And then,
Well, Mike, if other people, I'll just put it off on you. I mean,
All right.
counting on you to head this, and if
okay.
any other people want to volunteer, that's up to you.
You want to make a motion on this then or not?
I don't think that's necessary.
That's not necessary until we actually have something in place.
All right. then,
So would
we should-
anyone else like to participate with Mike in development of this?
I'll help them.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
you good with that, Mike?
Yep, good with that. So we'll look at a timeline probably of getting back to the board for the December meeting. Then we'll
I'd
probably
say,
have-
it's not an emergency. You get back to us when you're ready.
But we probably should have it ready so that when the new board is, seated in the spring, they have this available to them.
I'd say no later than the January meeting, to be
Okay.
fair.
All right. We'll probably have to get a legal review on it as well.
Okay, that
I have
brings us,
another new business question.
go ahead.
What are the current plans regarding filling Lauren's seat when she closes on her condo?
Don't have one. Haven't thought about it. We have 2 choices, I would think. One would be to fill it as soon as Lauren's officially not on the board. The other is to leave it vacant and have an election for a permanent board member. But I don't have a position on that right now.
Lauren, when do you plan on closing?
That's personal.
November 23rd.
Oh, that's soon. Okay.
Mhm.
That's nobody's business. Erica.
I mean, it's not up to me. I'd be interested in what everyone thinks. I'd be very tempted to say, leave it vacant and have an election.
I would too,
say
considering it's
mirror
only
plate.
3 months. It's only 3 months,
Right.
4 months, 4 months.
Well, I guess we'll decide that after I give you a recommendation at the next board meeting, huh?
Yes. Say yes.
Chap, I do have a question though. Will anybody take over as liaison for the 2 committees, communications and activities?
We'll have to do that too at the next board meeting. Okay,
I'll just,
so the bottom line is I'll give you guys a recommendation at the next board meeting. You kind of know where I'm leaning right now, which is to not fill it and wait for an election. Okay, John Mulligan, it's your turn. We're up to the budget for 2022. Before we start on this, I know there's going to be amendments, and I've told you all this. Whether I agree with the amendment or not, I'm going to second it. So there's a discussion. So everybody that's interested and is listening can hear it. So, John? Go
All
ahead.
right, 2022 budget. Since you've all received the budgets and have had plenty of time to review, ask questions, and make comments, I will go over it at a high level before I make a motion to approve. The general reserve portion of the budget, those are the funds that are collected for future major maintenance and replacement of capital improvements, increased by 2.9%. Okay, the overall budget, including the general reserves, depending on where you live, went up 2.5 to 2.7%, with the following exceptions. Condo coach homes went up only by 0.2%. That's due to lower water, sewer, and trash collecting expense. Wildcat single paired villas went up 4.9%. That's due to an increase in reserves to cover future expenses. Okay. With our expected excess cash of $300,000 by year end, the budget we are proposing includes a reduction of our assessments by $100,000. This leaves money available for any unforeseen expenses in 2022. And if we stay on course in 2022, I would propose we use another $100,000 to reduce the assessments in 2023. This budget was unanimously backed by the Finance Committee. This includes all the individual line items, such as the tennis budget, the landscape budget, which I understand might have some proposed amendments submitted. With that, I make a motion to adopt the 2022 budget as submitted. Any questions?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. It's open for discussion. Okay, Brownie.
I make a motion to amend the budget by eliminating the long-term capital fund, $10,000 or $10 a month.
All right, I second that motion. Is there
And I'll discuss. My thought is we've got, at the end of the year, we'll have about 300,000 in the long-term capital fund. The proposed project for Tiki Bar didn't pass for the third time. There's nothing on the horizon for need for the long-term capital fund. There's always small items with nothing large. And so I think it would be, I don't think it's appropriate to be charging members basically for a long-term capital fund at this point when there's really nothing on the horizon where we really need it. It's like we're asking people to put money in a savings account where they don't get any return on it. So that's my reasoning behind it. I've gotten a couple of inputs from neighbors about why in the world we do have that now after that project was just defeated. Okay.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded. Let's continue the discussion.
I've got a question. If we eliminate that and we go out to replace every chair in this place in 2022, you're going to need a lot of that money.
That's not true. That's reserve. Replacing chairs is reserve. This is long-term
How
capital. That's
are we
completely
going to
different.
have enough reserve to do that, Ronnie?
All I can say is replacement of chairs is reserve item properly. It's not a long-term capital item.
Yeah.
And I
Okay,
assume we have
Lauren?
money in reserves to replace furniture.
Well, I mean, isn't it a little short-sighted though, not to, I mean, it's a small amount of money when you break it down, not to have the money in the bank if and when anything does happen. I mean, to me, it would be more important to me as a homeowner, forget being a board owner. I mean, a board member, that we had money and were healthy enough to be able to take care of anything that might come down the road. So I have to disagree with you, Brownie, that I think for that small amount of money and with the assessments not being large this year or increased, that why take it away? I don't think $10 a month is going to make anybody wealthy or anybody poor. But
All right,
Lauren,
John.
there's one
John, your hand was up
misunderstanding.
first.
A lot of people don't understand the reserve. If there are emergencies and things come along, most of them are covered by reserve. When you really look at Sterling Oaks, we're pretty much built out. There's no open land. We've defeated that project 3 times. what kind of large project that you might see coming along in the near-term future? And any kind of emergency, big project like repaving and all, it's already covered by reserves. So we're kind of double dipping. That argument kind of double dips me.
All right, John,
Okay. Long-term capital fund can be used for new amenities or enhancements to the community common property. Every year, we have a wish list of items that a healthy, long-term capital fund could be used for, such as we've talked about several times, enhanced boardwalk. Okay, that's $150,000 to $200,000. Okay, we also talked about having zero death pool. Okay, part of the monuments would be taken out of the long-term capital fund. Okay, the bocce ball the pickleball courts came out of the long-term capital fund.
But not the tennis
Hey,
shelter.
Brownie, I'm not done talking yet, Brownie.
But not the tennis
No.
shelter, just to make sure you
Okay.
mention that also.
Okay, Brownie, please. Wait till I'm
Okay,
finished.
just don't leave out the tennis shelter, which you didn't support.
I didn't say that was part of that, so let me
It could be
finish.
long-term capital also.
So you're just defeating your own purpose there. Okay. It also provides seed money for investigations into possible projects like the Tiki project we have. We don't know what's going to come down the road. It provides funding for engineering studies, surveys, county requirements, etc. So I believe strongly that keeping the long-term capital fund at this current level is very important to Sterling Oaks.
Well, we've got 300,000 already. So if we start spending it, then we could reinflate it. But why do we need more than 300,000?
Because
Even the things that all the things you mentioned wouldn't add up to 300,000.
we don't want to keep
We
on going
can
up and
always
down, up and down.
replenish it. And if we start spending some of it, we can replenish it. We have no prospect to spend any of it next year,
No,
of any
that's
significant amount.
That's not true. Okay.
Of any
That's-
significant amount, John.
Well, that's your opinion, Brownie. Thank you.
Name something in next year budget that's a big item that you plan on paying for with the long-term capital fund.
I just mentioned one, the boardwalk we talked about.
Oh, I didn't know we planned on that yet.
It's not a plan. That's the thing, Brian. This is here for things we don't know. We can't always predict everything we're going to put in the next year or even 2 years away. We're going to take away this long-term capital fund. Then we want something big. Then we got to raise it up even higher. That
Right.
doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. It's a small amount of money, and if you deplete the fund, then you just have to ask people to pay more money, which is from an optics standpoint, probably not the smartest way to go. Better to have the money, and maybe next year you won't need a raise, or maybe we will, or maybe we'll be able to do things that enhance the community. But I mean, to have an argument over $10 a month seems a little ludicrous to me, to tell you the truth. I would say better to have it than not to have it.
any other discussion? Lanny?
I support what John said.
Is there any other discussion? We have an amendment on the table to eliminate the long-term capital fund for 2022. All in favor? And it's been seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Two in favor of eliminating, all opposed? Terry, how are you voting? All right.
I'm voting against it.
All right, 7-2, the motion fails. Okay, back to the budget. I'm sure there's going to be at least one other amendment proposed. Lanny, please, go ahead.
I move that we increase the landscaping budget for new planting and replacements by 20,000.
I second that motion. It is open for discussion.
I'll start. I hope all of you received the explanation that I sent last week, along with detailed photos of the kind of work that the landscaping committee has accomplished this year, as well as things that are yet to be done. I understand that the finance committee thinks that we don't know what 50,000 can accomplish. And I think our record this year more than adequately points out how little 50,000 goes. I want to emphasize that a great deal of this budget is going to the kind of irrigation improvements that are required in order to keep new plantings alive. So only about somewhere between a half and 2/3 of it is actually going towards new plantings because of the need to repair the irrigation in order to keep the plants alive. The committee would very much like to accomplish more that we have on the list that needs to be done around the community. Just this past week, Brightview did get in a lot more plantings. Everything, of course, is small, so it's not impressive yet, but we're very hopeful that within 6 months or so, there'll be quite an impressive difference. Initially, I understand Mark expressed some concern that Brightview wouldn't be able to do $50,000, the $70,000 worth of work next year. I want to point out that this year, the landscaping committee essentially was totally new and really didn't get moving until the middle of the year and has accomplished a great deal. They're already working on plantings that they'd like to see done next year, so that next year Brightview will have easily 9 or 10 months to accomplish the work. And I think that, I also wanted to point out that on the strategic plan survey, 83% of respondents indicated that they highly valued and supported enhancing and improving our landscaping. This was the very highest positive response rate of anything else in our strategic plan. We said we were going to do this. The landscaping committee can't do it unless they have more money. They'll only accomplish a tiny fraction again next year if they're not granted more money. So
Well, the only part of this that's new to me, and I'm going to need Mark's help on this, is I believe you said that a large portion of the budgeted money is going to have to be used for irrigation repairs. Is that right?
Any project that's done, they reassess the landscape, the irrigation in that area, and any improvement that needs to be made is part of the charge for that project. Yes.
I still
So
don't
it's
understand it. I mean, do we have sufficient irrigation for the plantings that we have?
No. That's
Oh.
why they're dying. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they're dying. They're dying because they're old also. But no, whenever they go to plant a new bed, invariably they find that the irrigation is not sufficient in that area. Either new irrigation lines need to be added, repairs need to be made. They've put down drip lines in some cases, but a significant portion of that budget is going to irrigation.
Well, all I'm surprised, as I said, the only news to me is that we've again, you know me, I'm not long on words, that we've ventured from tulips to pipes for water.
Well, if you want to put that in a separate line item and just let us pay for tulips, then 50,000 would be okay. But right now we're spending an awful lot of that 50,000 on pipes.
Wow, I didn't know that. I
Yep.
didn't know that. Mark, can you help me? Do you quarrel with that?
I can't give you, for instance, what we've spent as a portion, as a percentage this year on the irrigation. I don't know if it's 25% or 30% or 50%. I kind of would say it's probably on the lower side. Irrigation for a lot of the areas runs, for instance, we're doing the parking lot. The cost of putting in the new plantings in the parking lot are around $5,000. I think irrigation's probably somewhere around, $1,000. So I would say it's probably in the 20% range. That is my guess. Cezanne's probably got better numbers just from the GL standpoint, because when we see those breaks come in, or the new installs, we code them to those particular spots.
To put a smile on your face, all of you, I want the $50,000 spent on tulips. And
Are you gonna tiptoe through the tulips?
yeah, I mean, it's great. It's not fair to spend it on pipes. I mean, so
We
I would
need more
support,
tulips.
I wouldn't be against some kind of small modification to this to take care of the pipes. That's just me.
Is the irrigation system throughout the community something that needs long-term work?
You want to be here
Right.
till you want to be here till midnight? Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I mean,
I live in a
that
condo. I don't
probably exceeds the 300,000 that we have in long-term reserve. If we were to fix the irrigation problem in the entire community, you know, my personal bet is it'd be 500,000.
Oh.
But so what they do is fix it where they do new
When-
plantings.
Chap,
It seems
Chap.
a little convoluted, but the dollars obviously dictate.
okay. Chap,
Ronnie?
okay, Lanny, I support the additional money, probably mostly for irrigation, because I understand, I think what you're really saying, when you put in plants in a new area, you have to put in new irrigation so they'll live. Okay, that makes sense. But even though I support it, I will vote against it because this is a good example where you can use some of the long-term capital. And next year, when you want the 20,000 that you've run out and you want it for that, I will vote for it out of the long-term capital fund, but I won't vote it for it now, adding it to the budget. This is a good example. John gave it. We'll use the long-term capital. This is an improvement. This is an added asset.
Would you be willing to support 20,000 out of long-term capital today?
Yeah, when you propose it next year, I'll support, we need more than for landscaping, but we don't need to add it to the budget because we can use some of the long-term capital fund. As long as we have it, by the end of next year, it'll be $400,000 almost. So we've got money there. Let's use that for landscape, some of that for landscaping instead of adding to the budget.
But my question is, would you vote for that today so that we know we have that money coming?
I wouldn't vote to it
Because-
today because it's an addition to the budget. If you want to
No,
reduce
no.
the,
No, would you vote to earmark 20,000 out of long-term capital in 2022 for landscaping?
Yeah. if we can do that, yeah, I would do that, yeah. We can
Okay.
go ahead and earmark it, yeah.
If this one doesn't pass, I'll go for that.
Yeah, okay, you can try that, okay. But to me, that
Okay.
makes sense. That's one way,
Does
and
it-
that way, John, we don't have to change the budget at all. Okay.
No.
Does anyone else have any questions about the information or the photos that I sent you?
John?
Okay, well, I'm not in favor of increasing the landscape budget from the 60,000 that is currently in there, okay? 10,000 of that is at the disposal of Mark and his maintenance crew to repair and replace items that were damaged, such as trucks backing over things, lightning, the pavers when they did that, okay? 50,000 is for the community, for the landscape committee to use. In 2020, that figure was $30,000, okay? It increased 67% from 2020 to 2021. That was mainly due to the strategic survey. Okay. As the finance committee said, let's see how that works before we start increasing another 20,000 or 40% from last year or 133% from 2 years ago. Okay. Lonnie and the landscape committee talks about 99 critical areas that they inherited from the prior landscape committee. The prior landscape committee identified 99 areas in total to look at. Only 8 were critical. So why did we go from 8 to 99? I'm not sure. Okay. I talked to the prior landscape chairperson and liaison, and they believe that the current budget is enough for Sterling Oaks to replace and fix our landscaping. They do not see a need for increasing it to $20,000. Okay. And when Lonnie brings up that we should be doing this because the landscaping was high on the strategic survey, which it was, is 83%. But in that same survey, the satisfaction level of average to excellent was 91%. So apparently everybody thinks we're doing a pretty good job. And also, I guess the question I have is, are we keep having to do irrigation every time we replant something? Is it because we're planting something different? Because I get from talking to several people, a lot of this has to do with your own personal agenda of making this everything Florida native plants. Is that what's causing this new irrigation that needs to get put in? I don't know, but is that necessary to do everything? A lot of this is Florida native plants that I don't think is as curb appealing as some of the other ones that are being replaced.
John, actually, Florida native plants require much less irrigation than tropical plants. So that's one of the ways I'm trying to save Sterling Oaks money, to not require as much expensive irrigation. So you have that exact opposite. The irrigation changes that are being made are because Brightview tells us they can't keep the plants alive unless they replace the irrigation. At this point in time, only about 5% of the new plants are Florida native. I'm trying to get the committee to do more of it, but it's only a small amount right now. So an awful lot of these are tropical plants that require excessive irrigation. Let's see, was there another question in there? Oh, again, I guess just going back to your statement that you want to see what 50,000 has done. I've provided that information in terms of the photos in half of the areas that were identified as critical are going to be improved this year. The other half aren't. In terms of why things, the satisfaction might not be as good now, is we've had an awful lot of plants die in the last couple of years. Our landscaping gets older every year, and an awful lot of the highly visible landscaping, especially along Sterling Oaks Drive, has deteriorated dramatically in the last 2 years.
John, I want to find a way. This is somebody tell me a way, and I'm going to dump it on you, John. I think all of us want to spend 50 grand on what I kiddingly call tulips. Is there a way to alleviate that budget from having to pay for irrigation repairs and changes to accomplish the above? Is there a way to do that?
I'm not, when we're saying irrigation repairs, I'm not sure if that's something that could go to capital. I mean, I don't know how extensive this is. If we're just putting another little hose down here or something, I'm not sure if we could take that out of capital. I have to look into that. I'm not really sure.
What I don't want to do is I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too here. What I want to do is allow the landscaping committee not to have to worry about water. And therefore, they can spend the $50,000 on tulips. That's all I'm trying to do.
But my question and point was, you know, why do we keep on going higher? I mean, the 50,000 was an increase to 20,000. And how do we go from 8 critical areas to 99 critical areas? I don't understand that at all.
And it's because the plants are dying. You know, I don't know if we had a particularly bad summer, but the assessment from the committee is that essentially everything along Sterling Oaks Drive needs to be replaced. Condo areas need to be replaced. Unfortunately, a lot of plants were put in the past that are not suitable for the locations where they were planted, so they didn't last. So I prices have gone up. Brightview is very expensive. I don't know if Leo Jr. was as bad. They're horribly expensive, but they do warranty the plants for a year. You know, I could do it myself for 1/10 of the cost, but I can't do the whole community. So it may be that combination of things. You know, maybe the price we're being charged is a whole lot more. But in terms of what the committee is able to accomplish, it's very, very small in comparison to what they want to accomplish.
Well, somebody help me here. You know where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to reach a compromise here. So Brownie,
Well, I thought I gave you a solution. Let's make the 50,000 for plants. And my understanding is a lot of this irrigation is adding stuff. And we'll do that with long-term capital. And even if the plants are new, we can use the long-term capital. So to me, that's, and not only that, it gives us the option as the year goes next year, when we need it, we can take additional money out of the long-term capital.
Lauren, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I guess 99 projects is a lot of projects that this budget isn't even going to come close to fixing. I mean, but if indeed if there are only 8 or 10 or maybe even 20, maybe we should just work on the ones that are most critical and see what happens for next year. When is Brightview's contract up? We're thinking that they're more expensive than anybody else as well. I mean,
No, I'm not saying that they're more expensive than anyone else. I mean, there's definitely more expensive places out there, but it's just shocking how much it costs to put in a few plants. You know, plants that I can buy for $250, they charge us $10.
I don't see how even the raise in the budget that you're asking for is going to be able to accomplish what you think is critical. I mean, I don't think I planted a little garden at home and I was like, oh my God.
Well, that's why the committee would like to do this over 3 years. They don't think they can accomplish all of it in a year either. I mean, there's not enough time, but what they'd like to do is that
this budget gets increased every year by $30,000.
We don't know how much we're not projecting what it's going to be for 2023. I don't know that we could do more than $50,000 worth in a year. But we know that 30,000 wasn't enough for this year. We could do more this year if we had more money.
But you have more $50,000.
50,000, not 30. 30,000 was last year.
Sorry, $50,000. We could do more with 70,000 than we were able to do with 50.
Well, we all,
yeah. Well, and I've shown you the pictures of the things that are looking really bad that that need to be done. And next year's 50,000 won't be enough to cover it all. And I'd hate to be in this place next year and showing you again pictures that of things that are looking really bad. Chap, I certainly will accept your proposal as a very reasonable compromise to put in $50,000 into community landscaping for plants, and then add more to irrigation, either out of long-term capital or whatever. But I think just changing that policy would be sufficient to address what the committee wants to do next year.
No.
Well, Chad, my problem with this, I don't think we need to increase it $20,000. Where the heck it comes from? That's not solving the problem. We're taking money. It's spending the money that I don't like. It's not where it comes from. Who really cares where it comes from? So that's my problem. I don't think we need to do it. So where it comes from.
What I want to do is
Yes, I agree.
I keep saying what I want to do. What I propose is that we leave the $50,000 the way it is and if in their work, they determine that irrigation work is necessary to accomplish what they want to accomplish, come to us and we'll find a way to pay for it, just like we do everything else. That's what I think is the reasonable thing to do here. Again, smile, folks. I want tulips, not pipes.
Then in that case, I withdraw my initial motion and move instead to ask for support from the board for the landscaping committee to be able to spend $50,000 on plants in 2022.
I second that motion. Is there any discussion? I'm sorry if I'm trying to railroad this thing, but I don't.
Can we, parliamentary, can we do that? Can we ignore the other motion without?
I think
If I
she
withdraw
withdrew it.
It was seconded. It was seconded.
Yeah, but it was seconded. It was
If I
seconded.
withdraw it and Chap withdraws his second, we can
No,
do
it
that.
withdraws a
That's
second.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I
Okay.
withdraw my second on the original motion.
Okay.
Lanny's withdrawn the motion. It's dead. There is another motion on the table, which is to approve the $50,000 budget with the understanding that if they run into irrigation problems, they'll come back to us and we'll get our support to fix them, right?
Well, not that we'll get, I mean, you said that they will be fixed. We don't have to come back and beg to fix them. But we can tell you that we're going over the budget. We need more money to pay for that irrigation. But that the committee knows they've got 50,000 for plants and
All
planting.
right. Mark,
How much was the irrigation bill for this year?
I don't know.
Well, it's not done. We don't have all
Well,
of
so
it
far,
yet.
how much has been spent plants versus irrigation?
We don't have the exact breakdown because we know the plant charge ahead of time. We only know
Excellent
the
question.
irrigation charge after they've done it. And they did the bulk of the work last week. So I don't have that. And I assume, Suzanne, you didn't get a new bill from them this week, did you? Yeah, we don't know. I just know that I guess there had been about 6,000 or 7,000. Yeah, and I don't know how much was yours. The other thing that Mark's going to do is separate out the landscaping budget, the landscaping committee budget versus his, because right now they're mixed and it's real hard to figure out how much was his and how much was ours. And this year, his is being increased because his has already been overspent. So it's already going into our part of the budget, but they'll be separated next year.
Mark, did you have something to say?
Just that I think that going forward, if they're going to spend the money, that if they get to a point where it's a critical situation, it's not a carte blanche. You know, that they probably should say not to exceed on any, you know, if it's 20, 30, I mean, how much you want to, I wouldn't say that it would probably be more than, you know, $10,000 or $15,000, but I think you should at least have some ideas of that before it's comes up. And then all of a sudden we get into September, October, and the treasurer gives his report and says, where are we? Because you're gonna have to code it to landscaping. If it comes out of long-term capital, you're gonna have to at least register the fact that the pipes and everything have been replaced, and that's part of the existing. You know, I think you just have to. I mean, that's like saying, and it's not. By the way, the $10,000 is not mine. It's just that when a lightning strikes a tree and we have to take it down, I have to contract it to get rid of it, you know, and that's unfortunately that occurs. And we've had other situations. This is for the people out there in the YouTube world going, hey, that guy's spending 10 grand. Well, I'm not.
I
So,
think you're being too careful, Mark.
well,
What's gonna happen here?
boards
We bring
change.
every proposal for board approval anyway.
What's gonna happen here? Let's assume it's March. And the landscaping committee proposes $7,000, of which 6,000 is for tulips and 1,000 is for pipes. Okay, well, we'll kind of just keep track of the pipe money and move on. And if it gets crazy, then we'll have to put a halt to it.
Okay.
Right. I mean, I have to come to get to spend it all anyway. It's not like we
Right.
have it to spend without the approvals. But yeah, I don't envision that it's going to be, if it's going to be 50,000 in irrigation, then we're going to have to talk about it because it's a bigger issue than any of us thought. Mark,
Will you restate the motion that I seconded?
yes. I move that the board supports that the $50,000 in the landscaping common area budget that is managed by the landscaping committee be allocated primarily to plants and is not expected to cover irrigation, period.
Okay. That's been seconded. All in favor, say
Uh,
all
only-
opposed. 2, 3. Carry 6-3. Okay,
Thank you.
is there any other discussion or amendments needed for the budget? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the budget as issued. It's been seconded. There's no amendments, additional amendments being proposed. So all in favor of the motion, raise your hand. It carries unanimously.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I guess we're on to COVID. Is that right? Yeah, COVID, Lonnie?
Yes.
Unknown caller.
Excuse me?
I mostly have good news for the first time. New cases and positivity are lower than last week. Oops, I don't have the right report in front of me. Sorry.
I don't know.
It's in the board packet, right?
I think so.
And I'm
Yes,
just,
page 42 of it.
thank you. Oops,
Yeah,
I lost my board packet. One moment.
the last page, yeah.
Okay. Good news. New cases and positivity rates are back down to much lower levels. Vaccines are very available. More people are getting vaccinated. FDA gave approval for Pfizer. Oh, wait, this is not the new one. Sorry. Somehow you don't have the new report, but I remember most of it. Not only is Pfizer approved, but Moderna is also approved for booster shots. Many of us are getting our booster shots. People can get third shots if they're immunosuppressed. Fully vaccinated people still have a lower risk of getting infected and becoming seriously ill or dying. Prevention remains better than treatment. However, mild COVID is still a significant illness, as is long COVID. Our hospitals are no longer overwhelmed with cases. And you've got details on the numbers. At this point, I move that we should continue to do our part to control the pandemic. We should continue to encourage, but not require masks in the clubhouse. Remember, masks primarily protect others. We should continue to require masks in the fitness center from 12:30 to 1:30 each day and enforce this rule using standard procedures. We should encourage but not require masks in the fitness center during all other hours. Except when in a crowded situation, outdoor activities are safe for fully vaccinated people. And reminder that everyone should stay at least 6 feet away from others. I move that we adopt these 5 bullets as our updated COVID policy for Sterling Oaks.
Well, that's a relaxation in my mind. Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Very good. Next board meeting is scheduled for December 16th. I plan to have it in person. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
If the numbers remain good, I'll tell you if they don't.
No.
Okay, well, I need a motion to adjourn.
Well, one
Move it.
question, is everybody going to be back? And I'm for having it in person. Are we still going to have the Zoom option if you're not here?
I
How's
don't
that?
know.
Will not
That's a
be
good
here.
question. How are we
Oh,
gonna
we should all-
do that?
Cezanne, if we have an in-person, will your option be a Zoom or telephone for someone who's not here?
Zoom.
I won't be here.
I won't be here.
That's what I'm saying. So it'll be Zoom, it'll be in person, but you can still have Zoom if you're not here. Okay.
Is it still gonna be YouTube?
We'll figure that out. Especially if you have 3 on Zoom and 6 the other way. We'll have to sit down and play with it ahead of time to try to make sure that the 6 in the 6 present will be able to be seen and heard versus the other 3.
Okay,
Chap, with 3 people not here, you may want to rethink doing it in person, because it certainly does make it difficult when you have a number of people not in the room.
It won't be hard necessarily for you guys to communicate. We'll have to record it and still put it on YouTube probably if that's what you still want to do. And it'll just be hard to watch it that way. We can try.
Okay.
all right. There's no motion on the table. Who wants to plan on doing it in there's issues with doing it in person in December. Who wants to plan on doing it in December the way we've been doing it and start the new way in January? Who wants to do it that way?
They changed their minds.
Well, 3 of you aren't going to be here. You're going to have to keep doing it on YouTube or Zoom anyways.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it in December the way we've been doing it, start the new way in January. Okay? I'm easy. Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
Move it.
Is there a second? I'm sure there is.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanks, you
And
too.
you guys.
Two.
Well,
Working
hopefully we'll
with
see
you
some
guys.
of you on
Thank
Tuesday
you.
night.
John Brownie, I had a question for you. John, can you, Mihawk,
Yeah,
Please go on.
I was just curious, you voted against approving that roof repair. You hadn't made any comment. I was just curious. I voted for it, but you didn't make any comment. What was your reason for voting against it?
well, because we haven't been allowing early replacements. The repairs have always been on the homeowner.
This computer.
But,
No,
and
'cause I
but
couldn't
even
figure
in a
out which
case like
computer.
this, okay.